All right. Thank you for waiting, everybody. We've had some technical difficulties. A couple tornadoes had tried to turn our young Janet from another planet into a Mrs. Dorothy from Wizard of Oz, but it was unsuccessful. She's here and healthy. Janet, how are you tonight?
Hello, how you doing? I'm alive.
That last one is especially important. I like that one. I'm alive.
I'm
Um,
still here. Didn't get me.
the other couple weeks ago, or last week, we had a stream together and we discussed like watching movies. And for initially, we were discussing things like, let's watch bad movies. And I had an idea like, no, I've got to share a good movie with you before we watch bad movies. And I'm like, go watch Heat. And I sent you a link for it. What did you think
The movie, I thought
of
it
the
was really
movie?
good. I was surprised I had never seen it before. It's such a great cast of characters in it. I was really surprised every time I saw it. I was like, what? They're in this movie? Well, it was good. I really enjoyed it. It was action packed, I thought. Thriller.
Yeah, I'm just gonna scroll through the cast of this real quick, and you have Pacino, De Niro, Val Kilmer, John Voight, Tom Sizemore, Ashley Judd, and Dennis Haysbert and Ted Levine is in it, along with William Fickner, a very young Natalie Portman. You have Kevin Gage as the ever popular Wayne Grow and Hank Azaria. But that is like the ensemble cast to have for a movie. Um, when you started watching it, and this is your first time you've ever seen it, so it shows the theft of the ambulance, and you don't really know what's going on with that yet. And then it shows Vincent Hannah in his home life, and him and his wife aren't getting along too great. But then his stepdaughter's there, and that's Natalie Portman, and she's acting like a teenager, which she really is acting like a teenager in this film. I was really impressed on watching it as a 47-year-old man. Like, I remember when my feelings were that pronounced. That's weird. And what were your thoughts on the just
On
initial
her being
couple
a
scenes?
teenager? Well, I I was just surprised to see her that young because I hadn't seen her since I saw her in that Thor movie. She was in V from Vendetta too, right?
She was in V
Is
for
that the same
Vendetta.
actress?
The first movie she was in was a movie called The Professional, which got re-released in America on DVD as Leon the Professional. Hey,
Hmm.
Shadzar. And that was when she was 16 or 17 years old. And then she did a movie called Beautiful Girls in 95, I want to say. But she was super young in those. She wasn't even the age of adulthood yet. 79 is when she was born, I want to say. And Leon was filmed in 93. And that movie has Danny Aiello and Jean Reno in it. But I'll try to find a stream for you to catch that on, because I don't think we need to. If we want to talk about that, we will. But that's still a really good movie to watch because it's just a very well-rounded movie, and it has a lot of different themes that are in it. And being that it's directed by a European in New York City, you almost get this fish out of water feeling that you need to have to watch Leon the Professional.
Yeah, that sounds like it might be interesting to see. I've never seen it before, but I thought Natalie is that her name? Natalie Portman,
Natalie
the actress.
Portman.
I thought she did a really good job. I mean, considering how young she did a very believable character. I don't want to talk about some of the things towards the end of it, the movie and stuff. But I thought every single person that played a part in this was great. Even the guy, what was his, Tone Loc, the rapper,
Was
isn't
he
that
in
what,
it?
isn't that, yeah, he was one of the informants with Al Pacino, Vincent character.
Yes,
Um, yeah, because I loved him in Ace Ventura: Pet Detective. Wasn't he in that?
I believe so.
He was the cop that was like, he was such a good actor. I was so surprised. I didn't know he was in any other movies, but he did a good job in this one because I definitely like him, and he did a really good job for his part in that. He's a good actor. I can't believe he didn't do more movies. I really thought he was really good. But John Boyd, I was really shocked when I saw him because I just thought he would look younger since it was from '95. I don't know how old he is or anything, but they made him look pretty gruesome to me with the mullet and everything. But every one of the actors were awesome. I just was really surprised what a great ensemble they had in it because you just don't see that stuff anymore, where you have that many good actors with that many storylines all going on at the same time and that much action, and the uh, the overall amount of time it seems that they spent. Wasn't the movie over 2 hours long?
about 2 hours and almost 40 minutes, I believe.
They don't make movies that long anymore either, do they?
Unless it's a superhero ensemble picture, it's really, really
Yeah, but
crazy.
the movie was so good that I didn't even realize it was 2 hours. You know what I mean? It was like, uh, I don't know. I was so enthralled into the characters, it pulled me in. But I loved the opening scene and everything, and the characters that were in it to find out more about them. Because I didn't know for sure who was the bad guy, until I saw the stuff unfolding in front of me. But I knew it was a cop movie, or a detective type movie, but I didn't know for sure who was going to play who because I didn't watch a trailer or anything like that. I just followed the link and started watching it that you sent me, and I just couldn't believe how good it was. This was really good. I'd watch it again. I mean, I'm ready to watch it again so I can actually watch it this time and just pay attention to it because I was so busy trying to make sure I wrote notes and picked out different things, especially and I cried a couple of times in some of the scenes. I thought were really good because I felt for the characters, and I was yelling at some of them for being stupid. You know what I mean? That kind of. But I'm that kind of person. People hate to go to movies with me because you think I talk a lot. I really talk a lot, especially when I'm not liking what's going on or I'm frustrated. So it's
Um,
very bad.
I I was really shocked watching it again. I watched it again late last night, early this morning, and just at how much from when I first watched this movie at the age of 22 in 97, and then watching it over and over again in my 40s, and
Hmm.
how much I'm more critical of Lieutenant Vincent Hannah, the Al Pacino character, as his on the third wife. He's got the stepdaughter, and his third wife and him are having hallway sex, screaming profanities at each other. Basically, they know it's
Yeah.
over, you know. And I've seen that with way too many friends, and I've seen that with a lot of my old shipmates, where you get involved with them after they've hit their peak in their relationship, and you're there to kind of help pick up the pieces. And I was seeing it from both, like, because the movie gives you multiple angles of observation, and you can see where Justine, his wife, is going at it, where she's like, God damn it, I'm only going to be in my 40s once. I want to enjoy my life. And Pacino, he's like, I'm here just trying to put away bad guys. What are you doing? And it was just an interesting dynamic. And then her having a daughter, which any excuse for her to have a scene anywhere. And I felt sorry for those two adults because I've been there. I when I was a teenager, I had the worst hormonal balance issues going on, and I would not frag out. I would almost freeze from paralysis, just wanting to say so many things and not really knowing how to address the various things going on with my body. So I kind of understood where she was going at, and I felt sorry for the girl. Her arc really isn't that good. In the aspect of, like, it doesn't have the happiest of endings. I mean, She gets saved in the end.
Well, the thing is, I was thinking, when he was found her on the side of the road before he took her to the hotel. I don't know where we are in the show, but I'm talking about this character. I thought that maybe she was pregnant or something, because we never really find out what her problem is. So a
No.
lot of people, I had four sisters, so, and half my friends before they graduated from high school in the small school were pregnant, and had a kid or two by the time they graduated. And if they graduated, I mean, some of them just dropped out. But so that's the first thing that pops into my head. Now, when she's having the argument with her mother about dad's coming and I can't find something, her dance shoes or whatever it was, because she wanted to make sure she was going to be ready, because she was so excited about seeing her dad and wanted to make sure it was perfect, basically. That's how I looked at it, because I remember sitting for many hours waiting for my dad, because I'm the one that spent the most time with her, because I was the tomboy and we did a lot of things together. But I remember him being gone for long periods of time and being so excited that he's coming and we're going to go camping. And Kathy and I were the ones that always went, because the other sisters didn't want to go, and just being ready and being excited about it. And he'd bring home rabbits and kinds of weird stuff, rats. We've had pet rats, pet snakes. We had a turtle, because he was jungle survival instructor, and he'd come home with all these weird, spiders, weird stuff. And I loved it. I thought it was awesome. So I never knew he was going to bring home, but my mom always hated it. She hated all the critters. But I could see where she was the girl. I could feel for the girl about her wanting to have some kind of better relationship with her dad, because he was non-existent. Even though supposedly she seemed to really care about her stepdad, and you don't really know how long they've been married. It seemed like a while if the stepdad and the daughter had a good relationship, so that in an important time in her life, maybe when she was 10 till now or whatever, it never does really state how long they were married, but it seemed like they'd had, times in between his career where he wasn't really busy, to be able to have a type of relationship with it. And he seemed to be caring. He had like a caring throughout the movie with the stepdaughter. Had a
He
very
was
good
trying to keep her
relationship.
on the right track, it seemed like.
Well, but I think he felt like he wanted to be there for her, because he knew she didn't have a dad. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So even I don't have a stepdad or anything like that, but that's what I took from it when I was watching it. It seemed like his character was wanting to make sure she knew that he was there for her. That's what I got from it, which I thought was very good. But it did bum me out a little bit, because I didn't get to see enough about what was actually bothering her to put her in the positions that she was throughout the different areas in the movie, like you did with Ashley Judd's character. In that one scene that they have, you almost picture everything about her relationship
Yeah.
when before they were going to leave for that one dinner or whatever. And that right there was enough to give you an idea of where she was. And she had a small child, and she just wanted out because she couldn't deal with that anymore. So that everything around that and what she was doing and why she was doing it all made sense. But the teenage girl, the drasticness that she does and some of the things, it's really hard to understand, because they didn't really give her enough, even though it was over 2 hour movie, they didn't give her character enough time to fill in some of the gaps. So you basically had to do that in your imagination. And mine was that she was probably pregnant. She didn't know what to do with it or something. I mean, I don't, she seemed like she was old enough to be pregnant. Like she was 14 or 15 years old. So I don't know. That's my input on that character. And they seemed like the husband and wife, Al Pacino's character and what was her name? Diane
Justine.
Denora, Justine, his
Yeah,
wife.
Justine. Yeah.
Justine. They seemed like they had a very hot and heavy, sex life, and that they had good chemistry between each other. And to me, they seemed like they really did love each other, even though they had a couple of those little arguments or whatever. I still felt like they still loved each other and cared about each other. But I felt like Vincent's character was a little less willing to do anything to fix it. You know,
Hmm.
she was willing. You know, like when she didn't go home and she stayed and waited because she really thought they had to talk no matter what. She went home, she'd be asleep, and they wouldn't have a conversation. Because I feel like I've been in that same situation where um, uh, you want to answer and you're trying to explain your feelings, the emptiness that you have, or whatever. Uh, and she was wanting to share that with him, but she didn't know how to get him to understand it or something. I got something on my phone. I wrote a note on it, so I should have printed it out, but I didn't. So I'm gonna look real quick
She
and see if I can.
she seemed like she was hitting an impasse where she knew what intended outcome she wanted, but how to exactly bridge that gap, she was at a loss for. That was kind of where I saw it, because I don't think that if she would have had that problem in expressing that with him, I don't think she would have been surfing for other penis. I think she would have straight been completely involved with her husband. She would have been like, I know I'm your third wife. Oh, Janet. Hello, Janet. Janet.
I got kicked out. Can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Uh-oh, you sound like a robot.
I sound like a robot.
Oh, sorry, I shouldn't have left.
What's wrong? Hey, multi-gun man. How am I sounding to you now?
Can you hear
Janet?
me?
I can hear you just fine.
No,
I can
no, I can't
I
hear
can
you
hear
at
you just
all.
fine.
All I hear is the growling sound. Oh my goodness, this is terrible.
What happened to internet? Hold on, people. Janet's been having a hell of a time tonight. There was tornadoes over in Arkansas where she's at. And lucky for us, she lives on top of the mountain where the tornadoes usually don't reach up and snag people and destroy stuff. But Janet is in a technically not most. It's not going to be your T1 platinum cable lines in her neighborhood. Let me know if can you hear me now better?
I can't hear anything.
You can't hear anything. How about that, Janet? Hello. I'm gonna do a speed test here. Okay. Hold on for just a moment. All right. There's the boop from Janet.
Sorry.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you perfectly.
Okay, then everything's fine. I'm not going to touch my phone again. That's one reason why I don't like it to be on my phone. Half my notes are on my phone, so I can't get to them. Sorry.
Yikes. You're good. Um,
Oh,
and the thing about, go ahead.
I had some stuff on there um, about the women from the movie, the my point of view on it, and I was gonna tell you, but the notes that I have here, it's not written on it. I didn't have a time to write them down on here. I thought I had it right here, but it's not here.
So we,
Oh yeah, here it is. Here it is.
okay.
Sorry. Let's see. Um, when she said after they went to dinner and she was waiting for him when he came back, you know, when she confronted him, she said, "You never told me that I would be excluded." Remember he was saying, remember when she said that to him? That
Yes.
stood out to me because um, kind of like where I am kind of in my relationship, about whether what I'm going to do and how I'm going to go forward. And then she said, "I loved you, fat, bald, with money, with no money, and driving a bus. I don't care, you know." And but you have to be present some of the time. This is not sharing. This is the leftovers, and that's exactly whoever wrote that. I was like, Jesus, that's exactly how I feel in my relationship. I feel like I get to secondhand whatever's left over from him, that he puts everything into, and that's how I felt about the wife. He feels like he puts so much effort into his job, every detail, laying out the trap, spending every moment of his time trying to catch the bad guys. He's putting all this effort into everything, but that when he comes home, she gets whatever's left over from him that day instead of any emotional connection that she needed from him. You know, she's talking to him about her problems with her ex and her child and whatever else she was doing on the day. Asking if he wanted coffee or if he was hungry and things like that. And then she feels like he's like, we got to go do this or we got to go do that. And he's looking at his watch or his pager all the time. And she just feels like, she got to the point where, everyone meets and they're all like, oh, I can't keep my hands off you. Want to be with you every minute and want to hold hands and you can't wait till you see each other again. And when the door opens, you just want to hug because you're just so happy to be together. I always feel like that, even if I've only been away from them. I guess I'm like a dog. People would say I'm like a dog because a dog is always happy to see their master. You know what I mean?
There's just some people that are wired to be amorous, and when they're with somebody, they're there, like it's on.
Well, I
You
don't
know,
have to have sex every time, but I want to. I'm happy to see them. I want to know what their day was like, and I could tell what the look on their face or whatever. If they had a bad day, well, you want me to fix you something to drink or rub your feet or eat something. I want to participate in their whatever they're feeling because I need to feel needed and I need to feel like I'm important. You know what I mean? So me putting my extra stuff in here makes me feel like that, but I feel like he didn't want that he didn't need that, and that wasn't fulfilling to him. The only thing that was fulfilling to him was finishing or closing this case or whatever case. But see, when you're that kind of a cop, the case just never not a case. So that's what she was coming to the realization in her relationship that he wasn't going to be able to provide her what she needed anymore because she realized that amorous part or the part where he was happy to come home and see her face, just to see her, to be with her, even though they weren't going to be sexual or whatever, but the fact that she was home waiting for him wasn't enough anymore to him, and she could tell, and that
yeah,
wasn't enough for her anymore. So I wrote all that down because that you know that brought out my own feelings in her character. And then you had the other young woman who met, what was it, Al Pacino or Robert De Niro when he was in that thing, and he kind of he felt like she was like scoping him or something, thinking she was a bad person, or she was trying to find out, or she was an undercover cop or something, because he lives with that thing on his shoulder, thinking someone's watching him 24/7 because he is a criminal. Okay, so that real pretty girl is sitting there, and then when he said, "Oh, I'm sorry," he realized that she was just some person that worked in a store that he shops in a lot to buy stuff, and so he tried to make up for it, and because she was pretty, he made a little extra effort to put the band-aid over what he had torn open, basically, by being rude to her right off the bat. I got that, but to me, I felt like she was very young. I thought she was too young to be with an older man that way, but that's just how I am. And the fact that she was so naive and I don't know, um, I don't know, because I'm a little bit like that, naive to some quality that I don't see things that other people would say, "Oh my God, it's like a neon sign going off on his forehead, ding, ding, ding." You know, I'm gonna take advantage of you or whatever. I don't know, but for some reason, I just didn't look at it that way. And so I wrote down, let's see what I wrote a note on here. I said, "Oh, the you got a naive, lonely woman, and she goes home with a total stranger." That's one of the things, the first things I talked about. I was like, she meets him in a bar. He's an asshole at first, and then he makes up for it by saying, "I'm sorry," But that right away I would have wondered why he was doing that. Is he having a bad day because he's married? Or they had a fight, that kind of stuff. I would have been looking at his hands to see if he had a wedding ring on. I don't know. That's just me. But if she goes with him, they go look at the city view, of the lights, which was nice. I would have loved something like that on the date, but that wasn't even a date. They just met in a bar, so it wasn't like he came and picked her up from her house or nothing. But then she goes home with him and has sex with him, not knowing if he's married, not knowing if he's got any kind of disease. Or to me, that was all far fetched. But I'm that's how I am. That's how I look at stuff. But it was kind of romantic, you know what I mean, in a way. And then you got the other married women. They're both having affairs because they can't stand their husbands, or they're not being fulfilled with the romance or what they feel they need. So they're dissatisfied with their husbands or whatever. So they're both sleeping around on them. And then basically throughout the movie, the lonely woman who had nobody and just went home with a total stranger ended up being the only one to get what she really wanted, was someone that actually fell in love with her. Something that she was searching for, because she said she was lonely. She was a lonely woman. She had no one. And basically, in the whole movie, she was the only one that got anything good at it, even though it ended bad towards the end. But
Yeah.
basically, she was the only one that got what they wanted. You know what I mean? If you think about it, if you go back and look, well, the bad guy got the good guy got the bad guy, if you want to put it that way. But I was kind of rooting for him a little bit, that he was going to get away and be able to run off with her, because I wanted her to have what she wanted, and I wanted him to finally find out what it was like to have someone that loved him. Wasn't there for his money or anything like that. But
she actually liked him.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
She
was surprised when she found out what he did.
Yeah.
It devastated her, and that. But see, that was because she was naive, just like me. You don't want to see that, and you don't want to believe that kind of stuff happens in the world. And when you do find out, it's like devastating, because it changes the whole perspective of what you see through your rose-colored glasses about the world. And you don't want to know the realities of the horrid things that go on under the covers, and you lift them up and you see the really bad stuff that people do. It's not fun. And I can see why a lot of people don't want to see it. They just turn around and walk the other way and pretend like they didn't see it and try to live their life, where they don't have to face that kind of stuff. And basically, that's what that girl was. She had a good job. She had a career. So she wasn't in the dregs of the city. She was a little bit above some of those people. And that's another thing. The houses that, the house that Al Pacino lived in with his girlfriend, considering she was his third wife, he sure did live well. And I never realized that L.A. detectives could make that kind of money, and the having all this stuff at their fingertips, helicopter to do surveillance and all this other stuff. All that stuff to me was a little bit definitely
just over the top.
Theatrical. Yeah, it was theatrical. You could definitely tell that was. But I'm not saying it wasn't a good movie, but that part a little bit took me away from what was actually going on in the thing, because he's in a helicopter flying around looking for these people and all this stuff. So if he'd been an FBI agent or CIA or something like that, it would have been a little bit more believable that he would be able to get that kind of equipment, and have that many detectives on his team. Because you saw the huge room, and it was filled with all kinds of police officers and detectives, and he had like 5 guys surrounding him talking about this one case. It just seemed, I don't know, that was a little over the top for me. Even though I thought they did a really good job trying to figure things out, like when they went out thinking they were scanning these guys, with those 2 guys with the hearing devices up on those old truck trailers or whatever out
on
there.
the hay bags, the hay bag.
Yeah, when they were thinking they were getting one up on them. And then when they went out there, he realized it had to be Al Pacino, Vincent's character, that figured it out. That basically they set them up to see who was following them or whether anyone was following them. If they hadn't even went out there, they might have thought no one was following them. But because they went out there and they got caught out there by the bad guys, they knew that, oh well, they're being watched, and they know who they are now. So basically, they had the upper hand. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So
He finally knew what was going on and who was following him, who was trying to lay a trap out for him.
And it worked. He trapped all the police officers, basically. So, I don't know. But I did think for a little bit there, the way things were laying out, I was thinking that one of the cops, I can't remember the guy's name, he was in that movie and played Buffalo Bill in that movie, that cop. I can't remember what the actor's name is. The cop that played that guy character in the movies about the guy that liked to eat people. Darn it.
I'm drawing a blank here, and I'm sorry.
Oh, okay, it's all right. His name was Buffalo Bill, and he skinned women. He was making a woman's suit to wear because he wanted to be a transsexual. And I can't remember the actor's name. He was a cop with Vincent on Vincent's team. And he was in a movie with Clarice was a woman. She was after him, trying to catch her Buffalo Bill. And Anthony Hopkins wore a ski mask so he wouldn't bite people. And he was a doctor.
Silence of the Lambs?
Yeah, Silence of the Lambs. Remember the second one, or the one where the actor that was playing the man that was skinning all these women to sew together a tanned hide body so he could be a woman, wear a woman's skin. And he was in this movie, and I cannot remember his name, but he was one of the cops with Al Pacino's character.
Ted Levine.
Ted Levine. He played Bosco.
Yep.
Bosco's character. I thought Bosco was the one that was tipping off the bad guys, but he wasn't. So until I didn't know that until closer to the end when they were putting everything together, because it seemed like when the guy fell in the back of that truck and they stopped working on the
the drilling.
Yeah, when they were doing that stuff. So I thought that maybe a couple of those guys were in on tipping off. Because it just seemed like it was a setup or something. They couldn't get a hold of him because he was stuck in that trailer with them. So if he made a lot of noise, someone would notice it and stop.
And that one guy just sat down really hard, and that's all he really did.
Yeah, that's all he really did. But it made me think that it was a setup to he's trying to make noise to make sure they could get out of there and not get caught, because he knew they were about to pounce. But they had to get them doing something besides just breaking and entering. But that scene is when I thought, from that moment on, I thought one of those guys were in on their group to help them get all that money from the bank heist they were about to do.
Would have made a lot of things easier.
Yeah, it would have, but I wasn't right, so I had to have that figured out. Because you remember, I hadn't seen this before. This is brand new to you. Yeah, this is a brand new movie to me. And they definitely don't make movies like that anymore.
No, they sadly they don't. And it made me when I watch this movie, I get taken back to when it came out, because I remember we were in Port Isabel, Texas, when this movie hit the theaters. And there were some guys from my crew that we had just hit the beach. We just hit the brow. We were on Liberty. And we're there to celebrate 52 years after Pearl Harbor got hit. Well, there's about 20 guys that they found a van from MWR, and the van took them to the movie theaters. And so that was pretty nice. The Navy sent a van down there or rented a van for us so we could transport ourselves around this town, which really was not a big town, but it was spread out like everything in Texas. And so 20 of us went to the theaters. I did not. I was down there and they told me I could get drunk, but get back to the ship once I get drunk. So I did that. And I had fun. And then I got back to the boat and I was sitting on in the mess decks just drinking some coffee because one of the master at arms was like, "Listen, we're treating this like it's a foreign country. Please don't make us regret this." I won't. I won't. Give me some coffee. I like coffee. So I'm drinking coffee and listening to these guys talk about this movie. And I'm like, that sounds pretty cool. What'd you see? Heat. Huh? Heat. And so the next night we went out and I went out and saw that movie and it was pretty interesting. And I didn't get a lot of it. It went over my head. I'm not afraid to say that I at the age of 20 I caught half the movie. And at age 22 I watched it again and I seemed to be more grounded. I was able to actually absorb the context of what was going on with all the different storylines, but the part of it that I caught probably the hardest was the De Niro character. The first 3 or 4 times I watched it, I really identified with just wanting to be alone and being able to call my own shots and not have to worry about things because I was a young 20-year-old kid at the time. I didn't even wasn't even 20. And it was just one of those weird moments where you're probably punching above your weight trying to do something and I didn't realize that, and I've been doing this a long time. But when I had watched the movie, I really could identify a lot with his character. But when he met Edie, I thought this is kind of interesting and it feels really organic because you can tell whenever people have good chemistry on camera and those two fit together really well. They just had a good rapport.
Mhm. I thought so too. Even though she was young, okay,
Yeah.
but he seemed to be needing. He had a hole. He had a gap, and he was getting close to where he was tired of having to look over his shoulder all the time, like I was saying earlier, and that
Hmm.
when he was able to have this relationship, whether he realized that he could have it all, he could have take her somewhere, they could have money, and that they could, have a family and be together. And he could finally have the thing that he didn't realize he even wanted, until he got in that relationship. Once he had this relationship, he realized that I could have this, but I have to do this one last job to have the money to be able to leave and go do this. And I thought they were adorable. I mean, that like when taking her to look at the city, like I said, that would be a very romantic night for me, and I would enjoy that. And it wouldn't cost us anything. We'd have a bottle of wine and sit and just watch the lights in the city and just talk. I'd enjoy that. That's the kind of stuff that I would enjoy. That's why I felt like I connected with her. The way she looked at life and what was important to her, and she was very low key. She wasn't someone that needed a lot of pampering or anything like that. That just
Mm-mm.
down to earth, motherly, person that wants to just spend quality time with someone. And I think even though he had a lot going on in his head, especially with Val Kilmer's character and his wife's problems, okay, and then worrying about that one guy that screwed up at the very beginning, okay, he had all that in the back of his mind, but he was able to focus on what his future might have because he saw an opening that something he didn't expect. He kept this, nothing good's happening. I'm just going to keep doing this because this is my life, basically. But then when he met her and he spiked up that, relationship with her, and that she was um, willing and accepting of him, you know, and you could tell that he and her felt like they could have a future together. That she was willing to give it up, everything that she had there, to go with him. So he thought, wow, I hit the jackpot. She's beautiful, she's sweet, she's kind, she loves me, she's everything I could ever want. So she actually, like I said, I felt like she's the only one that got what she wanted, because he didn't get to spend eternity with her and she didn't get to spend eternity with him. But she finally met someone that loved her for her, and just wanted to be with her. That's what she always said she wanted because she was just a lonely woman. And he didn't realize how lonely he was until he met her. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
you don't.
basically, they complete each other.
Yeah, that's the thing. Whenever you're at that spot, you don't even recognize your own emotional temperature. You don't. You know that.
Until you meet the person of your dreams.
Yeah,
Once you
and then
meet that person, you feel the overwhelming power that they have over you, and that what you start seeing the future. You start thinking about what your future could be. It opens that up for both of you because you're both seeing yourselves together in the future as a couple, and what you could have in that couple. What kind of things are you going to do each day together? Like I said, he couldn't wait to see her again, and when he did see her, he was wanting to touch her hand or her hair, or he just wanted to be with her, and she felt the same way until she found out all that stuff about him. Then it changed her
that changed
perspective
everything.
of what she thought. But then she was able to get past that because she really did love him, you see. And he gave her the opportunity. He told her, this is me, this is who I am, and if you don't want to be with me, then you can leave. But if you want to stay with me, then you can stay. He gave her a door, a way out, so that if she didn't want to do it, she said, "Are you going to make me stay here?" Because she thought, because of she found out what he was, whether he was going to force her to go through with it. You see what I mean? But he didn't, because he loved her, and he just realized that she's not gonna do anything to hurt me because I know she loves me, but I don't want her to leave, but I'm gonna let her if she wants, and she didn't. So
You know,
that's what I'm saying. She got what she wanted. Go
she
ahead.
almost didn't star in this movie.
Oh, really?
No,
Who
she
was it
she
you think was gonna be her part?
no, she was asked by Michael Mann to be in the film, and so she took a reading of the script, and she went back to him. She's like, I can't. There's a lot of violence here. And she's already part of like NYPD Blue, but not on
Uh-huh.
like, it wasn't a level of the scale of violence in that TV series was not nearly as much as what Michael Mann had made in this film. In this 2 hour plus long movie, Michael Mann had made a visceral, ugly, raw look at so many people's lives in dynamic motion. And she saw it. She's like, it's a really good script. I I feel like I would be contributing to something terrible. And Michael Mann begged her. He's like, listen, I love your attitude. And I think you'd be perfect to play Edie because she doesn't belong in that ugly world. She's a naive soul. And she
Mhm.
needs to be in this movie portrayed by somebody who has your heart. And I'm paraphrasing, but he told her, like, in so many ways, like, I can't have somebody who looks like they're haggard and run down. I need somebody who's got a fresh, beautiful face, who can honestly go into this movie looking like just somebody who doesn't understand or know or comprehend logistics and how to set up all the things needed for necessary bank jobs and the risks involved, and you might be killing security guards. I need somebody who hears this and they get revolted.
Well, how did you
And
find out about that?
I believe it's on the IMDb page.
Okay, well, I didn't read that, but what's so funny is that's what I wrote about her on my notes. I said a naive, lonely woman.
Yeah.
And she
And
definitely played that character to the T, because that's exactly what came across to me when she was sitting in that bar, and she started talking to him because she recognized him from shopping in her business. And he automatically could tell by the look on his face that he got stiffer. His shoulders stiffened up, like he thought maybe she was a plant. He didn't know, because he got the bad guys that could probably be after him, or it could be the cops. So he didn't trust her right off the bat. But once she talked to him a little bit, and with her head down a little bit, like she was afraid to be aggressive or to confront him. She had that not a person that normally would be in his life at all. She's someone that would never ever be in his life. And once he got past the fear of what she might be and realized who she really was, and that she was just somebody that just happened to be there and just show up in his life, it changed the way he talked to her. He changed his demeanor. He opened himself up. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? Something he
Hmm.
wouldn't do with anyone else in the movie. Not one other person saw that side of him but her. And that, if the director is picked her for that part, he did a damn good job picking her then, because he did a very, very good job at portraying that to me, because I've never seen this before. And that's what came across to me, was this very naive young woman who just got out of college with learning how to do graphic design and stuff. And she was talking about, in the printing shop she was working in, how she was working and making these logos and doing different things, trying to make something of herself. And then even when he went to her apartment, you saw these pictures taped to the windows in her apartment, some of the designs that she had done. So I thought it was I thought they did a great job, whoever it was that picked her to play that, because she did, that's exactly what I saw when I watched the movie from her character. And I was surprised that she left with him, because someone in her, what came across to me, very naive and lonely. Something about him, there was an animal quality about him, a masculine uh, something that she wanted to find out about. You know what I mean? Was it that attracted her to? And then when he took her to see the city lights, just like I said, it was like, oh, I would have been like, oh, this is awesome. I would have been, been swept off my feet by my stupidity, because of naive, not understanding how a lot of people say and do whatever they have to get your pants off or whatever. And he could have been that way, but he didn't. Something about her drew him in, and he opened up to her. And I thought that it was good. I thought that was a very good scene. And when he took her to see the city, I don't know. To me, it showed his vulnerable side. And I think that's what she thought was so attractive about it. Now, I don't know if I would have slept with him, but maybe I would have. I mean, I wasn't her, and I wasn't her age. I might have done the same exact thing, but definitely, I saw myself in her character a lot. And
She
then I
was
also felt like the scene
she
where she
was
had the art. Oh, go
30.
ahead.
I think she was
Yeah, in the
30.
character, yeah, I think she was like 30, but you could tell that um, and she didn't wear any makeup. She just had her hair pulled back in a ponytail, so she wasn't out to dazzle anyone. You could
Mm-mm.
tell she had just got off from work, and she was sitting there having a drink at the bar, probably on her way home to her apartment, and he happened to be in there, and she recognized him. So she, because of who she was, the down to earth girl, she didn't feel threatened by this guy. She just said, "Oh," started talking to him, and I do that stuff all the time. So that was all believable to me until she showed her in bed with him later. I was like, "What? She went to bed with him? She just met him?" That shocked me. But it wouldn't shock a lot of people in today's world.
I
But
think the fact it was made in 94 or 95 was the release date, but so it was filmed in like 94. I think because it was the 90s, I think we were
mm,
supposed to just roll with it. Like the first night, this masculine man rolls this really young, naive lady right into bed.
yeah,
And then on the second meeting they have, she's like, I was really hoping that wouldn't be a one and done. And he's trying to get the ball rolling for a relationship on that second phone call.
uh huh,
And he's talking to her, and he's like, no, I've just been really busy, and now that I'm back in town, I want to be with you. And he just left that dinner party with everybody else. I mean, uh, my, I've got the IMDb right here. I can look right at this and not even stutter. Okay, so you've got Sizemore. Chirito has brought his wife and two daughters
mm-hmm,
to the dinner.
yeah,
You've got
mm-hmm,
You've got Val Kilmer, who brought Charlene, his girlfriend, that is tired of his existence. She's just
yeah,
done. She's done with it,
yeah,
and
yeah.
they're
She
all
didn't
trying
want
to
to go.
play pretend.
Mm-hmm.
And you got De Niro. Macaulay's just he's missing his. He knows his is out there, and he might have met her. And the first thing he does, he reaches for the phone, and he gets in touch with her like, we need to hang out because I've got time for you now. And this is back
Yeah,
in
'cause,
'95. We don't have
yeah,
the internet. We don't have instant messaging. We've got to get to a landline to do that.
mm, yeah, that was interesting too to see him using phones on the street, pay phones
Yeah.
too. That was kind of cool because you just don't see that anymore either in movies, unless it's a movie that's made to make it look like it's a flashback or whatever to the 80s
Yes.
or the 90s or something. But uh, I mean, when I watched it, I noticed little things like that, even though I'd never seen it before. But to me, it was so well made and it had so much action and stuff. I didn't even realize that it couldn't be today. You know what I mean? Even
Yeah.
though they weren't carrying cell phones and stuff like that. They had a pager with a number on it and stuff like that. But it just seemed it didn't seem like it was 1995. It just seemed like it, maybe it was a couple of years old or whatever. I didn't really think about it being in the 90s when they did it. The hairstyles, the clothing. The only guy to me that stood out that aged himself was what's his name? Let me see my picture here. John Voight with his mullet haircut.
Yes.
Know, that
That
was the
takes you
only
back
one.
to '95.
Yeah, that took me back. It showed me that character, or he would be a hillbilly guy, because there's a lot of people, in the South that still wear their hair that way. Believe it or not, it's kind of scary. But
I know.
when you see with mullets,
I'm not going to
uh,
say anything negative.
but what I saw when you asked me to watch this, I started writing down. I wrote down after I watched it. I was like, they don't make movies like this anymore, and I'd be very surprised if they made a movie with this many stars in it, with such a good script, with so much uh, story in the scenes that had Val Kilmer in it with Ashley Judd. There was so much going on in the scene, action wise, that you almost knew exactly what they were going through, even though you only had 5 minutes or less to make the scene. So the acting and stuff was very good. The chemistry was very good between the two of them, because you could tell he was like on the edge of the cliff at every moment of his life. You know what I mean? Because in that he just would do anything for this woman. That's how I felt. I felt like this guy was psycho. That if some guy walked by and tapped her on the ass or something, he'd probably kill the guy with his bare hands. You know what I mean? That
Hmm.
that she was his object. That she belonged to him, and that um, yeah, he roughed her up and slapped her around and stuff like that. But he was nuts. I mean, he was like a psycho, you know. Um, uh, I don't know. I mean, I can't. Man, he was hot though. He's still a good-looking guy. I don't like guys with long hair and stuff, but when they showed him at the end, when he had that Top Gun haircut and stuff, when he showed up, I was like, wow. I thought he was good looking, but he's still nuts. His character was crazy. But to me, it was like a slow build from the beginning through the drama and the suspense, and then the military stuff that was in there, because you could tell that Val Kilmer's character was a military trained man, because he was the one that did all the techno stuff, with the bomb that he made with the plastic explosives in the shape to go to use on the armored car, because you saw him picking up the pieces for that at that one place when he
He
went
was
there.
really good with explosives.
Yeah, he did really good. His character was believable. He did a great job for his psycho, uh, ex-military kind of guy, ex-ops or whatever he was in. You could tell his character had some kind of military training. You didn't know what. His hair was long, and he was on the edge, like, and you could tell that De Niro was trying to keep him in check, because how much he needed this guy. This guy, without this guy there, none of it would have worked, because of his techniques and things that they needed he was able to do, and his character was the only one that could really control him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For some reason. So we didn't get enough about that background, which might have been really good, but you could tell that they needed each other. One was right on the edge, and he had to be there to pull him back away from the edge of the building from leaping off or whatever. You know, like he did with the girlfriend. He said, "You got to give me, you got to stay with him. You got to give me one more chance," because he needed this whole thing to work out so that they could rob this bank. And he knew without this guy, he wasn't going to make it. And when she left, he was just going to go nuts. He didn't have any way of controlling them. So even though she was banging this other guy or whatever, geez, I can't believe when I saw that guy's character, I was like, that's unbelievable. She must be desperate to get out of this relationship to drop her standards so low to end up with that sleaze bag that she was with. But oh well, I guess all women are, will take whatever they can get or whatever. But I thought the whole thing was so good because you got, the story about the two guys on different sides of the law, and they're both the best at what they do. Basically, is how it came across to me, and that it proves that there's a fine line between being a criminal and being a person that's supposed to stop the crime. You know what I mean?
Yeah, a cop would make a really good criminal, and a criminal would make an amazing cop.
Yeah, because
That's
they've
that's
got inside instincts. They got the same instincts about trust. They all have trust issues. Is that guy going to be there to watch my back? You know what I mean? And that you could tell both of them. Either one of those actors could have played. They could have played each other. They could have swapped the two characters to play the other character, and it probably still would have been just as good.
I'm
I mean,
gonna I'm gonna I'm gonna knock you on that only, and not seriously, but when the first script came out, Lieutenant Vincent Hannah had a serious cocaine habit, and that was the reason
uh-huh,
why De Niro's character had all these really big outbursts. And so when he does all those just outlandish Al Pacino esque things, he
yeah,
is just he's acting as if he is still on coke, but they took the cocaine use out of subsequent edits, but they kept him being just a on the edge sort of cop all the time. And that's the
hmm
only negative for me about the film. I think they should have kept the cocaine use in because I unfortunately was in the oil field, and there's a lot of people in upper and middle management that get on the yayo and the nose candy, and they start just thinking all the crazy shit like, yeah, we're going to just frack. We're not even going to go back to the hotel. We're going to work for 36 hours straight, and then you guys can go home. And that's how we kind of had to do our rotations for a little bit for EOG. We had a we had this bright idea from one of our nose candy associates, and he said, well, the day before you go home, you're just gonna go with all your bags to the oil field. You're gonna be on scene, and you're gonna be there to help out everybody and make sure that no matter what, you're going to be there to help rig down, and you're going to make sure that the trucks are ready to go. But then you won't have to drive the trucks back. You'll ride in a van on the way back. But then apparently they had another bump, and they told us, listen, everybody's driving a truck. And so here we are, 36 hours, not being allowed to sleep, but maybe an hour at a time. And we're trying to drive down the highways. And eventually, like a lot of us pulled over in rest areas and such, and they got pissed off. Some people got rode up, some people got fired. And
yeah.
that was just my experience of having to deal with people that were on that shit all the time. And Lieutenant Vince Hannah is supposed to be a raging cocaine addict because they didn't really take out any of the other stuff aside from the scenes where he was snorting the nose candy. And if he's
Yeah.
snorting the nose candy, to me, that makes a lot more sense than him just being kind of a cop that he's got to get this bad guy. He's got to get this
Well,
bad guy.
see, if they had left that in there, then me watching it for the first time, because I just thought he was a dick, a narcissistic asshole. I mean, that's how I looked at it,
Yeah.
and I didn't know anything about that. That was something that was taken out. I probably should have watched something, that the director's stuff, because there was a little link underneath there that said that it was like the director's view or like commentary or something for the director. Maybe
Hmm.
if I watched that, I would have seen that. But he did seem like he was very high strung, and he was always antsy. Like pacing. Even in the offices and stuff. Remember, he'd be pacing around while everybody else was sitting or standing. And another thing I want to say, this might be comical to you, but I had a really hard time with the one actor, the black actor that was a detective, because every time I saw him, all I could think of was the Allstate commercial. I mean, that sounds bad, but that's all that popped in my head, and I was like, why it's ruining this movie for me? Because it's all I could think of. And he was a great actor,
He's
and I remember
wonderful.
seeing him in tons of TV shows and stuff, and thought he was so good. And he doesn't look like he's aged a day. You see him right now on TV, and he looks exactly the same. He's got some real good genetic genes from his
Yeah.
mom or
That.
dad or something. But I
Oh,
couldn't help it. All I could hear was in the back of my mind was, oh, and I know that sounds stupid. That's why I want to watch it again. I definitely want to watch it on the big screen.
Dennis
It
Haysbert
would be
is
great to
amazing.
see that the movie theater. What was his name?
Dennis Haysbert, the black actor that did the
Yeah,
Allstate insurance. Yeah,
yes.
that's Dennis Haysbert.
And he
He was
did such
also
a good job.
on. Go ahead.
What was the other black guy's name that ended up as the driver at the very end?
Mike Kelly Williamson as Drucker.
Yeah, I've seen him in a bunch of stuff too. Yeah, he was really good. I mean, everybody. Every time someone stood up, I was like, "Golly, how many good actors they got in this movie?" I mean,
He's
I haven't seen anything like that with that many actors and actresses that were so
is
good, all packed into a good movie.
he was in Forrest Gump apparently, and
That's
I
right. He
didn't
was
even
the
put that
guy
together.
that ran the fishing business,
Bubba Gump,
and Lieutenant
Bubba.
John, or yeah, Bubba. That's it. That's his name. I thought I was racking my brain the whole time watching. I was like, I know this guy. I know this guy, and he's such a good actor, but I could not remember what he was in. I just don't watch that much stuff anymore on TV. I hardly watch anything because it's just so everything now that comes out is just not quality stuff. And after you watch this and you try to watch something new today, it's like this is no comparison. I mean, considering the everything about it, the acting, the stunts, uh, like when they're shooting up, they have the car fight, where they're shooting in the streets and they got those guns with the spray going around the outside of it. I can't remember the name of those guns, but they're shooting and they got pistols and they're the wrecks and stuff were going on. It was just so much action packed into that one scene where they're all shooting and the cops are getting shot, bad guys are getting shot, everybody's getting shot up, and there's bullet holes blowing up in all the vehicles and the windows are being blown out. It was just really, really, really believable. I mean, to me, it seemed very realistic. All the scenes when they took out the armored car, um, the scenes when they were having the street fight in the bank, when they were doing the stuff in the bank to the people and stuff, all that was very realistic to me. And it's just hard to believe that it wasn't the new stuff they have out today. And the only reason I knew that it was an older movie is because they didn't have cell phones and they had a pager, things like that. And a few times when they used phones on the street, which they don't, I don't even know if they have those anymore, do they?
I trying to look at
I
this
don't
from
live.
a tech standpoint.
Yeah.
It it almost works even better, not even in 95, but in more of like 91, 92.
Yeah.
In it because that was when I really remember the pagers being super big with a lot of people that if you saw somebody with a pager, they weren't a nice person. They were somebody that had something going on, or they were a cop. And that reflects right back on your aspect of the cops and the criminals could flip positions in this movie. And we could have the entire crew for De Niro's guys being cops and all of Vincent Hannah's guys trying to rob these banks. And those would be the
Uh-huh.
guys that would have the new tech because
Yeah,
they're the
and
ones that can afford it.
because you remember in what was it? The ending of Endgame, where when he got the pager out and it had Captain Marvel's signal on it, and it was a pager. It was a fancier pager, but it wasn't
Yeah.
a cell phone. So that's what I'm saying. To me, it wasn't. It didn't even seem like it was 1995 or 96 or whatever. It seemed like it was like 2005
Yeah.
or 2006. It didn't seem. I was just shocked when I looked it up and I saw how old it was, because when I watched it, even though they had the phones on the street and a couple other things, the way the action scenes and stuff, the way everything was put together for the editing or whatever, or the people that come in and they do the special effects and stuff, to me it wasn't bad. And I mean, I've seen some movies that came out, in the 90s and some in the early 2000s that didn't have half as good a techno or whatever you want to call it, to make it look as a real, the sounds that it makes, the music that they use. I mean, all the different things that they added to this movie, it seemed top notch. I mean, it wasn't a B-rate movie at all. This was a movie that looked like they had lots of money. They had really good screenwriters. They had very good people to pick the characters. I mean, just the clothing. I mean, everything except for the one hairstyle on the guy, to me, was excellent. I thought they did a really good job at making it almost a timeless movie. You know what I mean? For
Yeah.
the story, I thought it was really, really good. And to me, I'm really bad about that. I'm really bad about picking out little things like that. It seemed like if they hadn't put this or that in, it could have been a movie you could have watched 10 years from now, and it would still be, it would still make sense because they didn't put too much stuff in it to make it dated. You know what I mean? It wasn't a
Correct.
dated movie, even though they didn't have cell phones and he had a pager and things like that. And you're right, only rich people, drug dealers, people that had money would have a pager. Lawyers, you know.
There's no reason for a regular farmer to have a pager. There's no need for a
Yeah,
shoe salesman to have a pager. Nowadays, we
you
all
have
need
to have
cell
a certain
phones,
kind of
apparently.
job.
But
Yeah, yeah. I mean, nowadays people that are on food stamps have $900 phones, so it's
I
like
know.
anybody can have one now, apparently. But yeah, I thought it was really, 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 really well made. All the storylines and everything were really, really good. Even uh, what was that guy's name? Give me a second. The whole setup from the spying or watching the one guy's room at the hotel, knowing where he was and setting him up, basically. I was looking at it when I watched it, is that Al Pacino's character wanted anybody and their brother. Every single person knows where this guy is, and so anybody that had a vendetta against him could go there and kill him. So basically, they wanted them to be slaughtered or whatever. Um, but then when I saw the surveillance, and they said, they had the camera right on there so they could see what's coming. They were setting it up for the one person to come kill him. But he pissed off a lot of people, you know. So when Val Kilmer's character found out who set him up, you could tell that's who I thought was going to go. And when you went back and they said he left, that one guy that picked him up with the mullet from the hospital, and when you said,
Yeah.
where is he? He said, he left. I figured that's where he went. He went to go find that guy and kill him because he risked his life and his woman's life, stuff like that. So to me, that's who I thought would kill him first. But then it had to be, you know, Robert De Niro's character that was going to go into it. Because that guy was a scumbag. He deserved to die. I'm sorry. He needed
You're
to be
good.
put down. Huh?
You're really good. You don't worry. If you're not going to offend me, and you're probably not going to offend the chat. A lot of us have watched this movie 20, 30, 40 times,
I
and some
wish
of us
I
have seen it
had. I just
twice.
can't believe I have never seen this movie. I was so surprised. Every single person that popped up on the screen, like Sizemore, I love him. I think he's excellent. Wasn't he in that movie with Bruce Willis, and it was in the black and red scene, almost like comic book? I can't remember the name of it.
Oh, you're talking about.
It was like a comic book movie,
It was a
and
comic book movie.
oh God, it was so good, and I can't remember it right this second. I want to watch that again. Um,
Tom
what is it?
Sizemore. It
Wasn't
wasn't his
Sizemore in
spirit.
that?
It is.
And I can't look it up. I am on my phone right now with you,
Oh,
so
I'm scrolling through right now. Jeez,
let's see
Tom
that.
Sizemore is huge. His IMDb is fat.
Yeah, he's in so much stuff. He's such a good actor.
I'm looking. I'm looking. Oh wow, he was in Always Sunny in Philadelphia as a trucker. Wow. Um. Okay.
Sorry, I help you look,
It's
but
all right. I I'm surprised. I did not realize he was this prolific. I did not know he needed to pay the house that bad.
well, the thing is that when you have a really good agent, you get your foot in the door in lots of different things, and when you're a good actor and you can play so many different characters, and in a way that's not good for a career because you don't become the star of a certain genre because you can play so many genres. You see what I mean? You know what I mean? Like you got okay, like Nicolas Cage. Okay, he can play one or two type of characters. That's it. You know what I mean? And that's what
Mm-hmm.
he always plays. Sizemore's not like that. He can play a romantic guy, a country guy, a cop, a bad guy, a Navy SEAL. I mean, you know what I'm saying? He can fit in almost everything that they put him in, and that you don't see that very often. And the bad thing about it is when you do that, you're not the star. You always end up being the supporting actor because you can be fit in so many different things. But that's a good because you make good money because you're in so many things
Very
and
true.
you keep getting picked because you're a good actor. So that's what I'm
Well,
saying.
one movie he
It's
was in with
like
Bruce
a curse.
Willis.
I thought it
He's
was Bruce
in
Willis.
he's in one movie with Bruce Willis called Striking Distance. And now I'm going through Bruce Willis's huge IMDb, trying to find that one. I know what movie you're talking about. It's got
Yeah, and it had
Jessica
that
Alba.
other fighter from 9.5 Weeks. That ugly guy. He's really ugly now, and he has a chihuahua. I can't remember his name. Save my life. Terrible with names. I can see their face, but I can't remember. But I can't remember it for nothing. I'm terrible. But yeah, Sizemore's a really good actor.
Yeah, and Sizemore he just sells it in this movie that like he's in it for no matter what. He's in it for the fun because he stopped having normal fun years ago. And he even tells them whenever they've got the opportunity to, hey, you've got plenty of money, you got real estate, you got everything you could want. It's time for you guys to just retire. And Sizemore's like, nah, man, I'm in it for the juice. I'm in it for the fun. And
Well, if you
that's
can keep getting good jobs, you know what I mean? You're not
yeah.
in like, oh God, there was a movie I watched. I don't know why. I watched like 15 minutes and I had to turn it off. It was so bad. And I didn't think I'd ever see a movie that bad. But it was the Nicolas Cage movie and he was like uh, fighting a bunch of, uh, he was in an old diner and he was killing a bunch of animatronic characters.
Oh my God, you saw Willy's
Something
Wonderland?
Willie. Yeah, Wendy. Oh my God, was that terrible? It was so bad. It was like he was in Five Nights at Freddy's, the game, and they were
It's
coming to life. But it was terrible, and the acting was bad. The special effects was shit. I mean, it was just really, really bad. And that's what I'm saying. You haven't seen Sizemore in anything bad like that. You could
he's
go
been in
through
some he's
every
been in
single
some
thing and
stinkers, but
nothing.
not bad.
Yeah, some stinkers, but not nothing like gag a maggot where you want to get up and leave. You know what I mean? So at
Yeah.
least he can pick and choose what he wants to be in and be in some actual okay B movies. This was like an F movie without the F. terrible.
Yeah.
It was so bad. But that's what I'm saying. When you're a good actor, you can be in a B-rate movie or even a fan film. I think he was even in a couple fan films. I can't remember, but maybe I got him mixed up with someone else. But he's one of those kind of actors that can be in almost anything and be really good. I'm trying to remember the name of it. I'm probably going to remember tomorrow, and I'll send you a message on Discord saying that's the name, and this is it. This is the one I couldn't remember, but
Yeah, I saw Willy's Wonderland, and there's a better movie out there on YouTube called The Hug, which is
yeah,
like 5 minutes. It's 5 minutes. It's a short film, and it gives you a better story than Willy's Wonderland ever could.
it was just so bad. It was so bad. I kept waiting. I kept saying, okay, I'm gonna give it 2 more minutes, and if it doesn't get better, I'm gonna turn it off. And I waited 2 more minutes, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna gouge my eyes out in a minute. This is so bad. So I felt sorry for him. I really felt sorry for the actor because I was like, I can't believe you need money so bad that you have to be in this movie. It's really bad. So I have seen some bad movies. I didn't even watch the whole thing. I think I watched maybe 15 minutes or 20 minutes. It was so bad. It was
Hey,
horrible.
hey, Memes of Destruction, how you doing, sir? I don't know if you've checked this guy out on Instagram, but
Uh,
he does a workout that is in a cartoon
oh,
where
that's
he does.
right. You told me about him. I think I did. I think I am following him now, but I
Dude,
can't look yet. I'll have to wait till. Let me write that down on my notepad real quick. What's his name again?
the Memes of Destruction.
Okay, the music.
Yeah, and he's a big fan of Bruce Campbell, who is never the real big
Oh
star of
yeah,
anything.
yeah,
But
but he's
he's
good at what he does.
yeah, I just watched Dark Man not long ago, and I didn't
Ooh, that was
recognize
really
Bruce.
good too.
Love that movie.
Yeah, it was
Love that
good.
film.
Yeah, I cannot
But
find it. I don't know the name of it. I think I have it. I think would be through all my DVDs.
there's just like as far as Heat is concerned, that's just when you watch it and you start seeing all the things develop, and they're putting together the pieces from the bank job where they rolled the bank vault car, and they've
Mhm.
got the bonds, and they say, well, we're going to sell the bonds back to them, and you're thinking, okay, well, this is kind of cool, we're going to get more money on that. And then you see William Fichtner, who's one of my favorite actors of all time, because he can play anything from from a needy man in Ultraviolet, which I don't recommend anybody watch, but he plays a very needy man who's fallen in love with Mila Jokovic or whatever her name is. And then he plays this slimy corporate banker POS in Heat, and his career does this really neat pirouetting where he doesn't ever really get one role. He'll get a role that's kind of like a role he did 10 years ago, but he's ran the gamut of various roles. He's not like Nick Cage, and
Mhm.
he does a great job of acting, and he plays a slime ball in this movie where first he tries to get rid of Macaulay McNeely, and he has the guy that sneaks out of the truck and tries to wax him while he's driving that Woody station wagon. That I absolutely loved seeing that in the drive-in parking lot, and it was sad that it was only there for that. But this is a type of movie where you only see a car for one scene and that's it, because it gets totaled or destroyed or they have to dispatch it.
Uh huh.
And and you have Danny Trejo's in this movie. He's great. I think this is his first big movie. Hold on, let me scroll back to 1995 on Trejo's IMDb. There's that bar. Okay, nope, this is not his first movie. By 1995, Danny Trejo had a lot of really bad B movies, and this was his first big role.
Yeah.
So
Is he the character that died when he was shot in his apartment and he went there and he was asking about his wife or his girlfriend
mm-hmm.
and he didn't want to live. He said to get it over with or end it because he just he knew his life was over because his woman was dead.
And it was
Yeah, I
really
watched
sad.
the stuff. Yeah, that was really sad to me.
I felt sorry for him because he was trying to protect his family, but I think he knew that things were in bad shape, and it didn't get good for him. And then after everybody's figuring out Van Zant has been really messing them up, the final third of the movie, a lot of loose ends start getting tied,
Yeah,
and the scene where he Macaulay pretty much dispatches Henry Rollins, which is one of my favorite '90s actors or musicians. And I don't want to say that I love the Rollins band because I just listened to them a lot, and I was inspired by Henry Rollins. Go work out a lot. Go try to learn and try to be educated. And I went the wrong direction on things, but he still inspired me through the '90s quite a bit. And then seeing him in this movie get get that treatment, I'm like, wow, that was actually kind of cool seeing De Niro take him out, and then shortly after, De Niro faces off against Fichtner, and he's like, "Where's Waingro?" And Fichtner doesn't give him the right answer, so instead of demanding further, "Where's he at?" It's about 10 seconds from that question to when the firearm barks and puts Van Zant down, and then he starts tying up things. He's got Edie, and they're on the way to the airport, and he has to tie up that one last loose end. And watching him go in there and the final showdown with Waingro, I wasn't expecting. Probably 6 years ago was when my mindset pivoted on this movie, and I just embrace the fact this is probably going to be the best that I'll see in my lifetime as far as crime noir is concerned.
yeah,
Because him and Wayne Grove's final showdown is an absolute festival. There's not much else I could really say. I mean, just watching him go at it in the hotel room.
yeah. But the final scene at the airport where uh, they're both going in between all the what do you call those things, storage boxes or uh,
The lights,
yeah, and then you had the planes landing and the when every time a plane would land, those lights would light up on the runway. So whenever those went out, you couldn't see from behind anymore. So that meant De Niro had the upper hand when that was going on because there was all the lights on the other side where they had the hangars and stuff. When uh, what's his name, Pacino was going in between all the different things with his weapon. So because De Niro's character stayed where he was between those two red and white little cement buildings that were out there, he had really good cover. The only time you'd be able to see him is when the lights came on when a plane was landing. So I kept thinking that because I hadn't seen it before, that when Al Pacino's character got over there, to work his way over there because he was he was dead set on killing this guy. You could tell he was like you said with the whole cocaine thing. It would have really fit that really well because he wasn't going to back off. You know what I mean? He wasn't going to just turn around and say, "F it, I'm leaving" or whatever, "I'm going home" or whatever. So he was hunting them down, like the other guy said, like the wife had said earlier that you do nothing but follow the scent of a trail and until you hunt down the bad guy or whatever. And then when you come home, you have nothing but leftovers for me. And she said that. That's basically what he was doing when he was weaving in and out of all those containers. Those containers that they're going to put on the planes. I guess if they put luggage in or whatever it is. So he's weaving through that. So I'm thinking in the back of my head that he's going to work his way over there, and when there's no light on behind De Niro's character, he's just going to shoot the guy when he gets over there because he can see him because he can see the shadows when he's walking in between them. You can see the shadows of him walking in between, and he's watching when he's peeking his head out. But just because that one plane landed and those lights came on that runway was the reason why Al Pacino saw Robert De Niro's character, the shadow that casted in front of him on the box before he pulled his weapon up, and he was able to shoot him. So he was able to get the upper hand on him only because that plane landed. To me, if that plane hadn't landed and the light hadn't come up on the runway, it would have been the other way around. So that was a surprise to me because I didn't know who was going to win at the end. You know what I mean? When they were both because they were both equal. To me, it seemed like they both had the same instinct. So
Yes.
it was an even match from what I was watching. So to me, that was very exciting leading up to that because it could have been either one of them. It was whoever happened to see the other one first. That's it. That was how. And I didn't think you were going to see. I didn't think he was going to see De Niro at all because there was the lighting and everything didn't affect him the way it was affecting the other guy because of the hangers and stuff on the other side of it. So that whole scene was really good. See, and there it goes. See, every time that would light up, it was a disadvantage because the lights were going that direction.
And at this point, I feel sorry for Vincent Hannah because
I did feel sorry for him.
Now what's he gonna do?
I wanted him to be able to sneak away and end up with his new sweetheart at the end. Not with as much money, but at least he'd be able to do that. But he couldn't do it because that's who he is. His wife knows him better than anybody. She said everything about him. She told him. That's all that matters. But he said at the end, what did he say? I told you I wasn't going to go back. And he was
I forget what he says at this point.
He said something about I told you I wouldn't go back.
That's right.
He would die. Remember? That's what he said. And then he raised his
He
hand.
ain't going to go back to prison.
Yeah.
He said that in a cafe.
Yep. He said, either I'm going to take you out, but either way, I'm not going to go back. So I remember that. But that whole scene leading up to that was very, my heart was pounding on who's going to make it, which one's going to win. And it would have been awesome to have seen it in the movie theater. I mean, with all the good sound effects and everything, and the planes landing and all that, it would have been really cool. I had to watch it on regular television, but it was still good.
See, and this is where me being in the 90s, when I watched it the first time, I was in a theater that didn't have really good sound. I don't know why we elected to go there, but it was just, that was kind of what happened. And I didn't have choice over that matter. But watching it at home, my dad had a 5.1 surround sound system, and that made a lot of difference. Now, mind you, we watched it at home on a 24-inch bulb or conventional television set from like the 1980s. And it was a different experience. It's a huge experience now to watch it because we have 55 and 78-inch television sets. We get the movie experience at home now, and you can ratchet up whatever you want. You can buy a $300 set of headphones and be able to just enjoy the crisp sound that is preserved in a lot of these. So nowadays it's different, and it's neat that I'm talking to somebody, and I feel blessed that I'm talking to you about it because like you're somebody that I'm really appreciating your perspective on a lot of different things. And the fact you'd never seen this before is kind of like a gift that I have. And I was able to open this and be able to talk with you about it for the past 90 minutes. And I'm enjoying the hell out of it because you have all these ideas of what the movie could be and how all these story threads interact, and is there more, that sort of thing. And it's just like, man, this is precious because this movie's 27 years old
That's
this year.
amazing to me. It doesn't seem that dated to me. I mean, it really doesn't. And
No,
the acting quality, the picture quality, the sounds, the music in it. Um, I mean, honestly, if it hadn't been for a few of the props, they had to use in it, I wouldn't even. You wouldn't be able to tell me that it wasn't made. That it was made that almost 30 years ago. It just doesn't. It didn't come across that way at all. I even think a young person, a teenager today, could watch this and think it was really kick ass. I mean, you know what I mean? I
yes,
really think. I mean, even though I wouldn't want a 13-year-old to see it, 'cause to me it was very, very graphic. Even though it's not as graphic as some of the stuff they have out now, you know.
yeah,
Um, but it was still very. Maybe it's because the acting was so good that it
I
made
think
more
that's
of it
it.
more dramatic to me. I don't know. I can't put my finger on it, but um, the thrill of it was really good. The acting quality was excellent, and but the leading up, the small pauses and the like the whole the scene where they're leaving the bank one at a time with their backpacks, and you're thinking, oh, they're not going to get there in time. The cops aren't going to get there. They're not going to get there to stop this because it seemed like they had it paced so well. Had the way they figured it out, and they almost did. You know what I mean? They almost had it because that one Sizemore was already in the car thinking, "We got it. This is over."
Yep.
And I'm thinking, "Yep, you guys are about to get away with all this money," and um, and then they showed up, and man, they just tore that place to shreds. And that was a really exciting scene. My palms were sweating watching that whole thing. Uh, and you could hear the people screaming and stuff, and I'm like, what in the heck would you do? I mean, what would a normal person that's walking down the street with their kid or whatever, um, because it was a very busy area and it was right on a major what do you call it, road, you know,
Hmm.
major road with lots of traffic on it, and it just had a lot of stuff going on, and people moving out of the way, and shoving and screaming, and but guns going off, people getting blown up, and it was just really exciting. That whole thing was exciting. The whole thing. I mean, each one of the scenes like that from the very beginning when they blew up the armored car, and then the scenes where the uh, the shootouts, the three shootouts they had, and then the very end when they had the shootout and stuff going on at the airport. I mean, all of that was just really exciting. Even the scene to me where he goes in there and his friend's getting stitched up. Um, um, what's his name? The one with the ponytail. Val Kilmer's character.
Falconer.
Yeah, Chris was getting
Yes.
uh, stitched up. I didn't think he was going to live. I really didn't. Because what he looked like in the scene where he did get shot with all the bullets flying and shit going on. That scene with the pickup out in the middle of the old loved the idea of them putting that whole thing in that old drive-in movie
Drive-in
theater.
theater.
That was freaking cool because what's really cool is they opened up so many old drive-in theaters recently during the pandemic. You know, so young people that you thought would never ever be able to go to a drive-in has been able to go to a drive-in and experience that because people don't want to be sitting next to people coughing on them in a movie theater. So even that scene didn't date the movie to me. You know what I mean? Um, it, I knew it was an old movie theater because that's how I watched movies when I was a kid. A little kid with my mom, and she'd make a giant bag of a paper sack full of popcorn, and we'd sit on the hood of the car, or we'd get a blanket
Hmm.
and put it out there by the swing sets because sometimes them had swing sets, and that was just super cool, I thought. And a lot of kids don't get to do that. I mean, I've talked to lots of college students that are like, "What's a movie theater? I mean, outdoor movie theater. What are you talking about?" And then I hear people talking about, "Oh, we went to drive-in. We went to drive-in." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" Well, they reopened this old drive-in. They got it all fixed up because of the COVID, and it's doing really good. So I'm hoping that a lot of young people think it's cool and nostalgic, and will keep these people in business, even though the COVID is starting to clear up and everything. But to me, even that didn't date the movie. That shootout and stuff in that one scene, that was really, really good too, and very exciting. The whole way they did that. So I thought that I don't even know who the director was. What was his name?
Michael
What
Mann,
is
the
Michael
Michael
Mann?
Mann. Yeah,
Yeah, he sounds very familiar. I think I've seen a lot of his movies. The
he's
name's familiar. You said it.
he's really like I didn't believe he was in his 70s now, but that guy's pushing, he's pushing upwards of three-quarters of a century, and
Wow.
he's made movies since like 1981. He did a movie from way back called The Keep, which we've discussed here over the last week. Really middling. It's a middling horror movie. It's good, but
I,
it's it. Go ahead.
I'm just reading this thing. It popped out. It says, in order to prepare the actors for the roles of Macaulay's crew, Mann took Kilmer, Sizemore, and De Niro to Folsom State Prison to interview actual career criminals.
Yep.
And then it says, while researching her role, Judd met with several former prostitutes who became housewives. Wow. Do you think actors do that much detail anymore to play a character?
No, I
How
don't
can
think.
yeah, especially when you hear what's his name, the guy that's playing that new show right now, Peacemaker show. What's that
Oh,
actor?
yeah. The this
Okay,
Cena.
he said he was told not to read any of the comic books or anything to get the
Uh,
part in the Suicide Squad part. I can't remember what his name is,
it's
but
John Cena.
you got John Cena. You got characters now that are going into these movies and they don't want to know anything about them because the characters now are written in their scripts that aren't even the characters that we knew they were, in stories or books or whatever, wherever they're getting their content from. So it's like, you know, it's just refreshing to see on this that thing that I printed out right before we came on here. I was trying to go through it. Was from your IMDb, I guess, page, and that was one of the things I just saw on there about them preparing to try to portray a character because they actually did research on the character they were going to play. It's like that's refreshing. I wish they still did that type of stuff to make it more believable. Maybe that's why. It's like you were talking about the young girl that played the naive love interest. Uh, I was taken in by her right away. I mean, as a believing who she was. I mean, to be able to see her and have that come out at me that she was so naive and not she didn't fit in with all these other characters that she was hanging with because they were well, not her hanging with them, but the people that he surrounded himself with. She was definitely a 2 or 3 steps up. He was
Yeah.
he was going up. By picking someone like her and getting her to be in love with him was like a huge something that would never happen to him normally because he's never around anyone that's just a normal person that gets up and goes to work, comes home and takes care of their house and does their nicety nice things with a normal family and stuff like that and relatives, and then goes to bed. A good girl, and she locks her doors, and she follows the law and all that. And him, I mean, I thought to me their two characters were the romance in the movie to me because they were it was young love, even though they were older, they weren't teenagers or anything, but they had that love pitter patter going
She's
on
almost an
between the
escapism.
two of them. Do what?
She's almost an escapism mechanism for him to fall in love with, and for him to not be this person who orchestrates bank heists and robberies of armored trucks. He can pretend to be a normal person. He can pretend to actually know what it's like to have to wait at a stoplight. What it's like to be a regular schlep because I have a regular woman, and he provides himself with almost this fantasy where he could just take her and go anywhere in the world. I've got the money. We'll live normal lives. We'll do things with this giant pile of money I've got from my previous criminal career. And whenever he meets her, he's looks like my internet's going weird, but he's got this weird mindset where when he meets her, he's got this romance in his
Like a
head.
fantasy goal, you know,
Yeah.
like a dream. Like when you go to bed at night and you dream about what you want, or let's say you've always wanted that red Corvette, you
Mm.
wanted this one car your whole life ever since you were in high school, and every
Lamborghini
day you're
Countach.
putting the money in the jar. You know what I mean? Putting money in the jar, and you're going to say, one day I'm going to buy one of those cars, a Trans Am or whatever it is that you wanted way back when you were young, because Grandpa took you to a car show and you saw this car and you've been in love with it ever since. You know, so everyone has something like that. You know, like
Yeah.
me, I spent this last weekend talking to a couple people on Twitter about buying this this collectible from someone for $300 and something dollars, and it was it's still in the original box. It was tore up, but when you take it out, it opens up, and it's the deck on the Enterprise, you know, with the captain's chair and the big screen, and it had three different screens you could replace the other screen with, and then you could buy the characters, the dolls of the characters that sit in the different chairs, and then it had the door that you twist, and it's like you're going up and you're coming in to be able to walk onto the into the Star Trek, you know, captain's area where you're going to be or whatever. There's different little areas, and it was all the little chairs and stuff to make the whole thing. And I wanted it so bad. I was salivating over it like an idiot. But that's what you do. You find something you really want and you dream about it. And you think about it constantly about what do I have to do to get that? You know, because I want to put it here, or I want to drive it, or you want to put new seat covers on it, you want to restore it. So it's like a fantasy. And to him, he's all his friends, even though they're all criminals and stuff, they've got loved ones. They've got wives that love them. They've got children. They have houses. They're trying to live both lives. You know, be criminal and have the house. Well, he's a career criminal, and he never did get the love. He never did fall in love and have that dream. And when he met her, and he actually got to spend some time with her, he in the back of his mind he's thinking, I can have this. So and then when she met him, she was she was lonely and naive, but she saw something that in him that filled the loneliness for her and filled a gap in her life that she wanted to fill. And he was more mature, and he was exciting and thrilling because of his salesman's job or being able to travel and stuff like that. How she was looking at it, and then when she got hit with the reality of what he really did, it was almost like an overload for her. She almost looked like she was in shock, that she didn't know
Yeah.
how to whether she could deal with it or even put up with it. But the more she was pressured by him, she realized that I love him and I think I can accept him with his faults, basically, because she really did love him. So that whole aspect of it to me was the one thing I could take away from it was he was my favorite character. Him
Yeah.
and her to me was like even though there was all this turmoil all the way around them and everything that was going on, stuff like that, and he's running from people and stuff. She was still in her little realm, her little round circle of life and her snow globe life or whatever you want to call it, and he felt like he could step into her snow globe and we'd be out of it. He'd be in his little own world with her and her little life, and he could get away from it all. But he didn't. He in reality he couldn't, because wherever he went, all this was going to go wherever he went. Even if he took her and tried to go to New Zealand or whatever it was that he said he wanted to go to. But she didn't know that until at the very end when she saw all that stuff on the news. She realized that this is not what I thought I was getting into. And then when she's standing there, when he runs by, and she sees the other guy chasing him at the end of the airport, uh, I started crying because I felt so bad for her, because she realized that's it. She's never going to see him again. And I think she knew that too, and that was sad to
I guess maybe while all this action while all the wonderful set pieces are going on in that movie, the the struggle that Edie and Macaulay are having trying to become a happy couple, that's like the biggest conflict in the entire film.
Hmm. For me,
And
it was.
no, looking at it from a narrative standpoint, because when those two are a functioning couple, the viewer is actively engaged with, oh my God, it's going to happen. They're going to actually get away and live a peaceful, normal life. They're going to do something and have kids and a dog and a white picket fence. They're
Yep,
going to
that's what
have,
I was thinking.
yeah. And you're thinking that, and it's just, it kind of breaks your heart a little bit because I'm listening to you talk and I'm like, holy cow. And I can understand why my mom, she has a love hate relationship with this movie. My dad, absolutely like top three movie of all time, probably only eclipsed by Casino and The Godfather. Hey, Tommy and the Guinea Pig Collective. Um, the the movie Heat for him is like just 2.5 hours where my dad can just sit down and he can just watch a movie and just get immersed in it. And he doesn't really worry about, like these couples getting together and Edie wanting to have a normal, blisteringly naive life. And, her husband Macaulay's gonna have horses. She's not she my dad doesn't worry about that. My dad's just watching every scene and devouring every sound, every tidbit from the speakers. He's into that. My mom, she watches it and she has to go and wash dishes, and she'll come back another time whenever we're watching this movie again, and she catches another act. She'll watch it for another 40 minutes and she leaves, and I asked her, what is it with you and Heat? Because you get upset with other movies, like you say they're garbage, but you watch Heat, and I can watch you see this movie. And my mom was like 45 or 50 at the time, and she's like, because
Hmm.
that movie has so many aspects where things could go right. And as a 20 something, I didn't get it. I just didn't. My mom, on the other hand, she was plugging in all the pieces that could fit, and you could have this 1950s nuclear family emerge from this horrible series of events, and things could be just wonderful. Edie and Macaulay could be off somewhere in Vermont on a dairy farm.
Yep.
It's just all these
And
crazy
that's
what if.
exactly what I was seeing. Yeah, I was rooting for them, basically. Even though I knew he was a horrible person and he'd done some horrible things, I was thinking that, like at the very end, like I said, when they were weaving their way through those container boxes and stuff, that if he if he could get away without having to kill him, like shoot him in the leg or whatever, and then get walk off, him and her can go off together, and I wouldn't feel so guilty about him winning. Because he didn't really win because they didn't
No,
get away with the money. Okay, but and almost everybody else in his crew died, but he got away and he got to be with the girl. Okay, but that's not how it ended up because of the lights, because of the lights, and he was it gave him away when the shadow, when he looked down, he saw that shadow, that long shadow from him from the plane, and he was able to shoot him before the other guy was able to get his gun or turned enough to see that he was actually there. So it didn't work out that way, but I was rooting for him, even though I know I'm not supposed to root for him. You know what I mean? Because
yeah,
he's a bad guy. You don't root for the bad guy.
you're not
But
supposed to root for the bad guy, but it's
but
De
I thought the
Niro.
other guy was an ass. And you know what? I think that that might be why they took some of the cocaine stuff out. They took all that drug stuff out because you don't want the bad guy to win. And at the end, if he's a coke head cop that is he's a, I don't know, he's an ass to his wife that loves him, and because he won't give her the time of day or whatever, you almost rooting for the guy. And I was already rooting for, you know, De Niro to get the girl and whisk her off, already. So if he ended up with getting shot by a coke addict or whatever, I would kind of like that sucks, you know, you know what I mean? I thought it was sad that he lost or that he didn't win and he died at the end, but I was kind of happy that he didn't go back to prison.
Yeah.
And but now the naive girl is no longer naive either. You know, she had her eyes opened in a really horrible way that she's never going to get over
She'll
because
never heal from
yeah,
that.
she won't heal from it because her first real love of someone who really fell in love with her, was you know a killer. She fell in love with the worst guy in the movie, basically. But
Yeah.
next to Al character, he was a bad guy too. I mean, he did it for the right side. I mean, he was on the right side of the law, but he wasn't really a very good guy, except the way his relationship with the teenage daughter that he felt like he wanted to save. Because that, in a way, she's the only thing in the whole movie that really kept him on the good
Grounded.
side. Yeah,
Yeah.
but from stepping over the boundaries, you know what I mean? Kept him connected to humanity or whatever. Finding her in his hotel room, where she cut her arteries trying to commit suicide, and we don't know why she did it, but we just assume why she did it. But in a way, him saving her life changed the relationship between him and his wife, even though I don't think they're going to stay together. But the
Yeah.
fact that she didn't hate him as much as we thought she did, because he showed his human quality. That one thing that she kept striving to see, because she felt like he was just, you know, coming back and throwing shade at her, leftovers, what was left of the day. He was giving her a dribble of his interest, and it wasn't enough. She realized it wasn't enough to fulfill her needs, so she was going to move
Maybe,
on.
maybe seriously, I don't remember the part off the top of my head where he's talking about how he's got, three ex-wives or two ex-wives, and this one here's on a downslope of the marriage. I don't remember where he says he's got his own kids, but I
Yeah,
think literally this is where his wife probably recognizes that if he had his own kids, he probably would not be as out of his mind as what he currently is. He would
yeah,
possibly be
some
more
people more
grounded
grounded. Yeah,
and
some people more grounded and clinging to reality about because look, if you look at it, the relationship between the criminals, you know on De Niro's team, okay, they had kids and families, and they were able to connect in that way of wanting to save and take care of their families, because that one guy, when he was shot, he was laying there dying. He said that when he found out his wife was dead, he was like, well, I don't have nothing left to live for,
yeah,
because that's all I wanted. It's all, even though he was a criminal and stuff, he still had the humility or the humility enough to feel love for someone else, compassion, and willing to that it wasn't worth living without the person that I love. It's just not worth. Life isn't worth it. And in a way, my personal feelings, I feel the same way. I mean, like when my mom passed away, it was really, really hard. I didn't know. I was like, how can the best person in my life, the one person that I could tell anything, and they never looked differently at me. They didn't look. She didn't look at me with disgust or sadness, and she always trying to see the best in me and love me for what I was. And now that person's not here anymore, so I don't have that person to share my feelings with. So I can put that on some of the characters in there about the way they looked at their loved one, like the way that Val Kilmer looked at his woman. Even though he treated her bad, he went through those episodes, and I think it was more because he had PTSD or some other underlying problem, because you could tell because of his skills that he was ex-military or something, even though they didn't go into a lot of detail about any of that stuff. But you could you picked up on that just simply from the interaction between the characters. You know what I mean? So
His
that whole
weapon
thing.
handling in the street shootout at after the
Uh
bank
huh.
scene, whenever he slaps a new magazine in, that
Mhm.
was shown to a bunch of devil dogs in the early 2000s, and a lot of drill instructors at Paris Island were telling their young recruits, when you're finished with boot, you're going to slap magazines in like this or smoother, because this is an actor. And this guy practiced pretty much, Val Kilmer supposedly practiced for like 2 days just getting that muscle memory down so he could look like he had done this over and over and over again.
Uh huh.
It came
It
out.
looked like it. And I'm not a pro or anything, but it was believable to me that he looked like somebody who had tactical training with
Yeah,
weapons and with all kinds of different things, like the way when they had him sitting there drilling the holes in that thing at the bank, and different things, the way he set things up and how he pulled down his shield over his face, just little subtle things like that. To me, he looked like he was a professional, like he knew what he was doing, whatever it was that he was about to do.
he
He just
might be
looked
a
like he
hot
had
mess emotionally, but when it came for him to make his money, the guy was just on point.
yeah, for the job, whatever
Yeah,
job that he was set in front of him, and uh, and that when he got into the emotional stuff with this woman, um, because I didn't see him beat her or anything, but he shoved her around a little bit. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Kind of like he slapped
he-
her and he shoved her, and he talked a little bit low, degrading. I mean, I've seen a lot worse of treatment
yeah,
of women in stuff, but to me, the way he treated her, and then when he looked up at her when she was up on the balcony, and you could tell when she lied and said that wasn't him, okay, that
yeah,
she loved him, but you could tell she still loved him, even though he was a nut job and he needed some kind of therapy or something. But you could tell her character loved him
yeah.
and was still trying to do what was right to help him because he was a father of her child or whatever her reasonings behind it. That came across to me, and that when she did her hand motion, he knew that signal that meant they're gonna he needs to go and continue somebody. He's not him, and to not uh, act uh, or blow it or whatever. And this is his chance to get away. And but the look on his face when he saw her and he knew it was her, the happiness that he felt because he was madly in love with this woman. At least that's how I saw it as a woman. And I love
And
romance
just
and stuff. That's how it looked to me.
8 hours before, he also almost bled to death on a city street,
Yeah.
and he had been given some serious work by a doctor to get back and get his mobility going. And the doctor told him, "I'm pretty certain you need to let it rest. Your body needs to heal." And so he's probably feeling his oats. He feels really good because he's seeing her. And then when she gives him that hand signal, like you said, like he knows probably things are going to be different for a while, maybe forever. And I
Yeah,
gotta
that she
say that
still loved him
Ashley,
because she was trying to help him. She was telling him, "You need to do this," whatever that signal was, because of his past as a military guy. She supposedly knows some things because he told her, "If this ever happens or that ever happens, you need to give me this sign, and I'll know that that means this." Because so to me, that was like a tactical thing that he taught her because of their life of crime or whatever. Because he came back from that one job and he handed her the money. He wasn't stuffing some in his own pocket and giving her some. He gave her
no,
the whole lot of
the
money.
whole bag.
So I took from that he trusts her 100%, and he adores this woman, even though she's tired of his bullshit. She still loves him. Okay, and I hate to say it, but lots of women whose husbands beat them and treat them like shit don't ever leave. Until either he kills her or she kills him. It's like a psycho group of people that they feed off each other or something psychologically. I don't know what, I don't understand it because I'm not in that, but that's what I got from their relationship. and it was very deep. I mean, it was a very deep psychological romance, basically, that they had, even towards the very end when he got away with it because the other guy did his job. That he was never involved in any of it. Nobody ever caught that guy, the John Voight's character. Nobody
Yes.
went to his house and arrested him. Nobody shot him. He wasn't involved in any of that shit, even though because of him he was able to do a lot of shit and make a lot of money off of these people. And he still got away with it. So there were people that didn't get touched, by the cops. Just like Tone Loke's character. I can't remember what his name was. Let me see. In the movie, his name was,
Trucker.
uh, maybe that's it. Here it is. The next page. Sorry. Um, it says his name was Richard Richard Torina was his character's name.
That's right.
Tone Loke's character. And he was like dressed nice. He was dressed really nice, like he was in a nightclub or something. I can't remember where they were at, but he was a businessman that knew a lot of shit, knew a lot of bad people or whatever in his business. But he didn't nothing. Nobody went and arrested him, or he didn't get shot or anything else. So that just showed me too that a lot of these underworld people that work together, they can make a lot of money, but depending on what their job is or how they help, launder the money or whatever, that they just don't get involved in the certain areas where they're going to end up getting blown to bits or knifed, whatever. So they do the underhanded stuff, but they stay out of it. They keep their hands clean. Like
They
that
do their
one
best.
the doctor that sewed him up, and he was like, "Give me your shirt." He was like, "What? My daughter gave me a shirt." "I don't give a shit. Give me that shirt." And he took his shirt anyway because he didn't want to wear a bloody shirt. But he was involved. He knew they were criminals.
Yeah.
He took the money and he did it, and he went on with his life. So there were a lot of underhanded people out there that are still nefarious, and they get away with doing things that are illegal because they're not high on the food chain or something, but they're still making good money.
Yeah.
So that just showed me that it's kind of scary if you think about it in reality because of how many people get away with everything. In real life, how many people actually get away with all these crimes. And if we were to arrest every single person that we knew was involved in it, even if we didn't have any.
You don't want to do that. You'll have nobody working.
Yeah, I was going to say, all the businesses would be over half empty because everyone's involved in something, stealing a pack of cigarettes or whatever it is. So there's a lot of crime. There's a lot of crime.
You got me throwing chemicals at people because they paid us like $900 for a legitimate job, but they got upset. So I'm there trying to smooth things over and give them stuff for my job. And here's an extra $100 value. Thank you for the $900, which we got, which we legitimately made off you. But, here we are, we're trying to make small concessions just to get through our day. And at some point, those small concessions turn into something magnanimous and like, I should not be crossing this line. But you do.
Yep, a lot of people do. I mean, I don't think a single person, because I remember I was a kid, God, I must have been about 6, I think, and I think Sandy was 5 at the time, and we had went to the commissary with our mother, and there was this long bench in the front, and they had this ginormous gumball machine, one of those big round ones that had the little wheel that kind of goes around the edge, and you get your candy and it rolls down, this thing, and goes through all these little bills, and it comes out from the machine and you get it. I remember that, and my mom gave us each a quarter and told us that we could get some gum and just sit there and wait. She only had to pick up a few things or whatever at the store. So we sat there, and I remember she went to put her money in, and she turned the deal, and she got her gum, and she was chewing it. It's one of those giant balls I used to have, and it filled the whole mouth, I guess, because we were little too. So then I put mine in, and I turned it, and two gumballs came out. And I was like, oh, I got 2 pieces of gum. And I was so excited, and I put one in my pocket and one in my mouth, and I'm chewing it. And then I started turning it, and gum just kept coming out. So I put my shirt under it, a big T-shirt I was wearing. I think it was one of my older sister's shirts. And Sandy was turning the knob, and I was filling my shirt, just filling it. I mean, it was full. It was as big as a basketball. That's how I can remember. It was that big, filled with gum. So then we sat down on the bench, and we were cramming gum in. I mean, I had so much gum, I was choking on it. And then my mom comes with the bags, and she's looking around. I could see her looking at me and looking around like she's wondering where we got all this gum. And then she goes, "Where'd you get all that gum?" And I pointed because my mouth was full. So she came over and she grabbed my cheeks and squeezed them. It made me spit out the gum. And she had it in her hand, and she goes, "You took all the gum balls out of that machine. I only gave you 25 cents." And I said, "Well, it's giving it to us for free." That's what I said. Next thing I know, she's got me with that gum in her hand and drool coming out between her fingers, and she grabs my ear, and I got that big bag, a big shirt full of gum, and she takes me up to the register, and she makes me dump that gum out on the register, and then the lady handed her some papers to take the gum out of my hand, and then she took us out to the car, and she whipped us both, put us in the back seat for stealing gum. And she said, "I know you thought it was free, but when something comes out and you don't have to put money in there, that means you're stealing." This is what she told us. So I remember doing some things like that when I was
Yeah.
little and getting in trouble. But I had a mom that would whip my ass. So, and I didn't
My
get
mom
mad
was the
over it.
same way. She was the enforcer of my household. My father was the softie, and my dad did not like to whip me. He hated it. But my mom, on the other hand, she Hot Wheels track, electrical cord,
Oh my
hanger,
goodness.
all of that.
Yes.
All of it was a weapon in her hands.
'Cause I remember my mom we'd be outside or whatever. We spent a lot of time outside, I guess, when we were young, as kids. And Sandy had done something. I don't remember what she did. She did something bad, but I don't remember what it was. And my mom said, "Go get you a switch." And when I got spanked, I would get a really thick piece of branch or whatever, something really thick. But Sandy was dumb. She would always pick the long, skinny thing that was real thin and very flexible. And she'd be running, and my mom would be smacking her with that, and it'd be wrapping around her leg. And I was like, "I'm glad mine's over with." I had a couple little whelps on my ass because I actually liked getting hit on my butt, not on my legs. But Sandy would always run, and she would always get whooped on her legs and stuff. But that's what you learn. And then I got to where I finally was smart, and I said, "I'm just not going to pick anymore. I'm just not going to get in trouble."
Yeah.
So when I got older, Mama said, "What do you want, a whipping or do you want to be grounded?" And I said, "This ground me."
Yeah.
And I just sit in my room and listen to music and stuff. So I think that's when I realized that being alone and listening to music is pretty good. You're not having to do dishes. You don't have to vacuum. You just sit in your room. It was nice.
It's, uh,
I enjoyed it. So I got smart. And I didn't get in trouble so much. I mean, I think after I was in sixth grade, I don't think I ever got any spankings after that at all. And the last reason I got a spanking, I thought it was bad. I don't know, I can't tell on myself, but uh, my mom and dad had a house, and it was, had lots of woods around it. And I remember I stole a couple cigarettes out of my mom's purse and went out in the woods because I was trying to be cool. And I think I was in sixth grade at this time. And I pulled my cigarette out, and I light it with a regular match. People used match back then. And I took a couple puffs of your cough and stuff because I don't smoke. But then I flicked the matches onto the ground, okay? And then they would start a fire, and I'd stomp it out, you know. I think it was right before school was out, like in May or whatever. And I remember I was going to stay the night with my girlfriend, and I was at my girlfriend's house, and my mom called, and she goes, "You need to come home. Have her mom bring you home." And "What's the matter?" "The woods are on fire behind the house." So I almost
Yikes.
burned our house down because I was out there being cool, flicking, matches on the ground, thinking I was all that shit. And I told my mom it was me, so I got grounded and whipped with a belt for that. And that was my last spanking that I ever got. But I deserved it. So it made me feel really bad because I could have killed my family and the other people that lived next door to us because I was dumb enough to just think I was cool, to start fires or whatever because I was still in this message, knowing that if I didn't put it out, good, you're going to burn the forest down or the woods down or whatever. But it didn't burn that much. I mean, it burned a little bit, but it didn't get anywhere near the houses. But it could have, if someone had
Yeah.
seen it and called the fire department. So I felt really crappy. And I told my mom, and everybody kept telling me, "Why did you tell your mom?" And I go, "I don't know. I just felt like I had to tell her. Mom, I was the one that started the fires out there." She was like, "What?" And I said, "Yeah." And I told her what I did, and so she said, "You're grounded, and you're getting a whipping." So I was like, "All right." I took my punishment, went to my room, was grounded for 2 weeks. It was terrible, but
Oh,
I deserved it. But see, I wish we did that more. I mean, who has a guilty conscience anymore about anything they do? They tell on themselves. I mean, there's not that anyone I've ever met since then. I mean, people just, they just say, "Oh well,
we have a
maybe
guy at
they'll."
my job that he's in charge. Everybody's in charge of their own vehicles, and every vehicle has its own toolkit, has its own items it's supposed to have. I've got my suspicions about this guy. He's got a very long nail on his pinky. Some people in the chat will understand what I'm talking about here.
I
So,
do. I
so he the other day, one of the things happens to the other van, and little Jay didn't make his way into work that day. So one of the other guys gets into Jay's van and it's like, "Hey, I got a problem. I can't do any work here. I got to go grab my tools out of the other van and bring them in here." "Why? There ain't no tools in here." "What?" No wonder Jay's been having a hard time getting all of his work done. He's got all these jobs that like he gets. We're buffering like crazy. Sorry. Um, this guy he's just not admitting he's got a problem, and so we sent him over to the doctor's office for a urinalysis, and things came up positive. But
Yeah,
well, we're my boss doesn't want to get rid of him. He doesn't want to fire him. He wants to clean him up because he's one of the few journeymen that's willing to work for us. We only have one journeyman. It's this guy. It's like we
yeah.
can't let him leave. We can't fire him, but we got to get him cleaned up a bit. So I think we're going to try to enlist our assistants we have to get him to a rehab for 3 or 6 weeks or however long it is. Shadow and Sun, you're fine, man. Are we sounding okay to you guys out there? I've got 7 people in the chat. Thank you all for being here tonight. Me and Janet have been talking about heat intermittently, among other things going on. So hopefully we're able to be heard loud and clear. Uh, uh, it's just it's a different mentality that there's some people out there they don't want to admit problems. They don't want to admit like they are weak on some things. Like you might be great on doing things that most adults can do really well, but then you find that there is a there there's one little small subsection of life where certain people just stumble and fall. Certain people just they can't cope or comprehend, they can't complete things. They just fall apart right there. And this
Hmm.
guy Jay at my job, I kind of feel sorry for him, but he's an adult. He's 40 something years old. And to say that he's a responsible human is probably erroneous as it gets because he still lives with his parents. He's got a semi new truck, and his daughter and ex-wife live not in this state. So whatever happened to him, whatever adulthood lessons were there, he obviously skipped class that day. So I feel sorry for this guy, but that's the things going on in my professional life where I'm trying to work scheduling around to where we can possibly be able to solve them.
Well,
But
can I ask you a question about that?
go ahead.
Where did he sell all his tools to pay for his habit? Is that why he didn't have the tools? Oh,
I think
that's really
so.
because some of those are very expensive.
Yeah, probably upwards of about $800 in the van, not
Yeah.
including some fittings and other things that are missing, giant pieces of PVC. You know, what used to cost just $10 a year and a half ago, a clean out, a piece of plastic that you would break a pipe and you would fit a T on it, and then you would build up more PVC from that T fitting, and it'd be above ground. So now you have infrastructure, and you can get into that pipe, and you can auger, you can jet it, you can knock clogs out that way. So this poor SOB has cost us a lot of money because we've got to rebuild this van for another set of work, but we can't let him drive it alone now. Apparently, he has to be supervised. He has to be given a helper, and it's not like he's really good. He's a journeyman, which is not anything quote unquote special, but he's our only journeyman. And so now we have to put another person with him. That van will now have to have about 150% of the budget allocated to it because we've got to make a lot of that money back. Uh, I'm having to stretch and work things and having, I'm supposed to be the fleet manager, and the boss wasn't upset with me. I didn't sell the stuff. This guy sold the
Yeah.
stuff so he could do his stuff. And it's been really bad in the last month. He's been absent 8 days, not including weekends where he's supposed to work, where he's on call, and he just doesn't check in.
Well, what kind of the relationship sounds kind of weird
What do you mean the relationship?
between the boss, and the one person he's trying to help, and he's putting all this extra work on everybody else and getting frustrated with everybody else, but not with the person that caused all the frustration. It just sounds like a
We're
weird relationship.
we're fighting to keep our job open from a position of weakness right now because we have a weak link.
Yeah,
But
that's what I'm talking about.
Shadow and Son, I'm
The
a septic
relationship
tanker.
between your boss and that gentleman sounds
Yeah.
kind of
If
weird
if
or
my
different.
boss was able to function with all four limbs, it'd be great. But back in February, he injured himself,
Yeah.
and the ladder we were using, he misstepped, and so he was working on a gas line, and he had to get on top of a roof for this. And instead of us hiring somebody else to do it, like we usually will hire a third party to do certain things, but we were just behind the eight ball. We're a plumbing company. It is a crappy job. And so he gets up on the
Yeah.
roof and he tries to do something. And when he's stepping off the roof, that's when something happened. And Hector was there. Hector's our very fine 67-year-old do everything guy. He, because of the smartphone that we've given him in the past 2 years, Hector's actually learning to read because
Wow.
before he wasn't reading. He would
Yeah.
he knows how to do concrete, he knows how to do plumbing, he knows how to solder. Those three things will keep him employed no matter what, no matter where he goes. And he's bilingual,
Uh-huh.
mostly Spanish.
Yeah.
He can read Spanish. Okay, he couldn't read English well, but now that he's got a smartphone, whenever he's at home, I guess his wife is having him do all the social media, so he's having to learn it. Very smart man and very good at learning for being 67 because I've been told that the learning capacity slows down as you get older.
Yeah.
And this man is amazing. So he was there on a job site with the boss. He caught the boss as the boss had fallen like 15 feet. If Hector had not been there 15 feet head first into concrete, my boss would have been an egg. The
Yep.
Humpty Dumpty splat. No more boss, no more job. Hector was there, caught him, blocked his head with Hector's body, thank God. And it's interesting, but my boss has got a hip that's got about 4 bolts in it right now. So he's going to be out of the
Uh-huh.
game for about 9 months. So he can't go out and fix things. We're relying on others in our crew to step up and start doing things. I'm trying to use logistics and try to keep vans running, oil changes, things like that, and now stocking a van. So we're
Wow, it
we're
sounds like
behind the
you
eight
guys
ball.
have a really, yeah, you're behind a little bit, but it sounds like you have a really good group of people. They're all willing to pitch in and try to help each other out so that you can keep this business going. That's really, dang, that's awesome. You
Well,
don't
I'm going to
usually
type it in right now, but I
like,
need 4 hectares at my job, and I need one of those hectares to be a journeyman.
that
Awesome
would be
one.
great.
Can you plumb? Can you do plumbing? I need you to do soldering too. So
I wish I
it's
could do it. I've soldered a few things, but I can't do plumbing.
plumbing's a crappy job, and I hate seeing women try to plumb. No offense, but the women's hands shouldn't be anywhere near that shit.
I
It's
mean,
it's
I've used a snake before where it
you have a
my
clog.
dad a few times. Um, but it was weird is because we put it in the drain of the bathtub, and we kept running and running and turning and turning the thing until it came out, and it ended up coming out of the pipe that's up behind the dryer in the washing machine in the washroom. Is where it finally came out. And it had a lot of stuff in front of it. We were really surprised. I didn't realize they were connected to each other. At least they were. They are at my dad's house. But once we got that all cleaned out, because for a while there it was like the bathtub would not drain and it would fill up with water and it would take a long time for it to drain out. And my sister Kathy, the blonde one that nobody would think would, you know, is the smart one or whatever. She's like,
Hmm.
we need to snake this out. And I'm like, well, how do we know where it comes out at? She goes, well, honestly, I have no idea how we're going to find out where it comes out. But she said, but it needs to be snaked because something's in there. We don't. I just don't know what it is. But something got in there somehow, and we'll just keep snaking it until we can figure out that it's cleared up or whatever. And
You
I said, how are we
basically
going
just
to know? She
operate
said,
it when you're
she said,
doing a snake work. You mainly are trying to fish along the line, and you're trying to find where the clog is at. And once you find
yeah,
the clog, you're going to find it, but that's when you need to use your shoulders and your hips, and you need to make
yeah.
sure that
And that's what she had me there for. Because man, it was a lot of work. But I don't know what it was in there, but we got it out. But what was neat is Deanna is standing in the bathtub, okay, and it's got water in it, and it's flooding. We're bitching about it every time we go. We can't take a shower because you have to go really quick, or it's up to your past your ankles and stuff.
you don't
And
want to do that.
then it would take forever. It takes forever to drain out. But we never realized that that was all connected because you'd think when you flush the toilet that it would back up and it would it back up into the bathtub or wherever it would be dirty water, would look dirtier. But apparently it doesn't always have to look dirty for some reason. I don't
Yeah.
know because she's in the bathtub and I'm snaking and Kathy's like trying to see going out back to see if it's coming out somewhere, where we could see water coming up or something, trying to find anything because they had a septic tank still, but they had city water coming to the house. See, so we didn't know what we were doing, but we had already spent a whole bunch of money trying to get a plumber out there to fix it, and the guy would come out when we weren't there, okay, and take advantage of the elderly people, and he'd write a check, but it wasn't fixing anything because it was never fixed. So we kept snaking the snake, and we finally snaked, and bunches of goo and stuff was coming out of the two pipes behind the washer and dryer, right there in the wall. We'd cut a hole out. So we
Hmm.
did it ourselves. So it got rigged up real good, but we got it cleaned out. Then we hired someone to come and put the pipes back together where we had cut it out. And but once we did that, man, it drains so good now. It's amazing. So it's probably years and years of stuff in there. Who knows? But the people that had come and done all that had never snaked before, apparently. But so girls can figure stuff out. I mean, we just had got on the internet and read a few things, and it ended up working. So we weren't plumbers either. We're still not plumbers, but it's nice that some things do work if you just don't give up.
we've got a core group at my job of about 5 people. I just added one of my coworkers. We got a sixth guy in, and he's learning his job. He's overzealous. I mean, I give him props because he's trying, but he's not one of the crew yet. He's only been there for maybe 3 months, and he's a desk worker. I got another guy that he's an actual dispatcher, and he's trying to show the young guy all the things. The young guy knows IT and he knows how to fix printers, which is good because we have problems with printers sometimes. Apparently, I don't know. I don't use the printers at work. If I need something printed off, I'm usually in transit. Let me pull over to Office Max and give me the email. I'll have them print it out for me, and that's usually how that works. But we have a very small crew, less than 10 guys. My boss has had, except for young Greg, we've got everybody there. I'm the newest one there out of the other five of us. So it's a good crew, but it's kind of hectic. You know, it's a tradesman job, and I love it. It sounds crazy. I love playing and shit. So, and that comes out no matter how you say that. I love the job I have. When you say what you're doing, it's like there's some part of me, that part of my soul just died. um, I'm going to ask you about this movie here. You said you hadn't seen it, and it's been out for 27 years. Have you? You live close to your family, right, Janet?
Yeah, with to some of them.
Okay. I'm going to tell you that I think you need to check this movie out again. I think you need to watch it again because just
Yeah,
talking to
I do
you
want to watch it.
talking to you about this tonight, like I hear like there's not many movies that you want to see immediately right away. Uh, you need to watch this movie with probably your sisters if you can, the ones that live close to you, because like if they're like you, if they were sheltered or they didn't know this movie existed, I think this would be the perfect movie to be like, no, we got to watch this movie. And I would love to hear your battle report from that because I've seen it upwards of 20 times, probably in the last 10 years.
Wow, it's just amazing to me because I really didn't think there were that many movies out there that I haven't seen. But when I was going through after I watched this one and other movies that came out in the '90s, I couldn't believe how many movies I hadn't seen. I'll have to pick a few of them and tell you what they are so that maybe you'll want to do another a couple things or whatever or movies that I haven't seen before. And even if you haven't seen it, that would be good because I think if we watch some older movies that we haven't seen, not just bad movies, but just movies that we haven't seen before and get a new perspective on it, even if it's 20 years old. You know what I mean? To be able to
Yes.
see it because I really enjoyed it. In a way I kind of felt like I was rushed to watch it because because I had just had those kids that stayed here for 4 days, and I finally got rid of them, and I was doing laundry, trying to mop and clean. I mean, it's amazing how dirty kids are. I forgot how bad that was, but so I was rushing basically to try to watch this in 2 days to get it, get that watched and write down stuff while I was watching it and in between doing laundry and stuff like that. But it was really, really good, and I would love to sit and just watch the movie and not have to do anything or have any interruptions and be able to
Yes.
use my good sound and watch it on my great big TV. I don't know how big it is, but it's pretty big.
Okay.
Um, it's like 47 inches or something like that. Nice size.
For next week's movie, I'll let you pick and just
Okay, I'll
send me a
send you a
text.
couple
Let me
of
know what you want me to watch, and I'll find it. I'll stream it now,
If you
or
want to
I
watch a
might have it.
romance,
Sure.
no, I'm just kidding. I don't like romance movies. But I do have a movie that we could watch if you haven't seen it before. I've already seen it, so it'd be me knowing it, and then you having a perspective on it if you want to watch it. It's a Ryan Gosling movie.
What is it?
It's called The Real Girl.
The Real Girl.
It's an independent film. Well, I thought
Okay.
it was excellent. I loved it, but we can go into detail about it if you haven't seen it.
I
Lars and the Real Girl is what it's called.
real
If you
girl.
want
I'm just gonna get Lars and the real
Lars
girl.
and the Real Girl with Ryan
Okay,
Gosling.
from 2007. I'll check that out.
Because I hadn't
Really?
seen it. It hasn't been that long ago since I saw it, but I was really shocked how good it was.
Hmm.
Because I do like independent movies. I like movies that aren't, you know, big blockbuster movies. That are more, um, step back or whatever. And someone tells you about it, and you go, "Wow, that was really good." Because you didn't get a chance to watch it. So good. Let me know when you watch it, and we can
Okay.
do that, and I'll watch it again.
We're coming up on the 2.5 hour mark, and I do have
Oh,
to go back
okay.
to my normal life.
Yep.
Um, for those of you guys that are popping in or that have watched and listened to us discuss this movie and seen some clips here and there, heard anecdotes about the film, I really appreciate you being in the chat tonight. It was really good to read all of you guys here. I want to give a big thanks to all of you awesome one, Travis J, 1975, Corporeal Life Form, Connell Wolf, Shadow and Sun, awesome one, and Tommy and the Guinea Pig Collective, and the Memes of Destruction, Shadzar, and
And I didn't see any of the chat because I'm using my phone to be on here. So I
appreciate
didn't see anything.
that's dedication. Shadow and Sun, we do take suggestions on movies, and I'll let her. Uh, uh, I I'm taking the stream on Mondays as like I know Janet only from a lot of discussion on Discord, but mainly from her Instagram or TikTok account. And like, I would love to see her get monetized. Like, I think she's got a great personality, and I think a lot of people need to be exposed to her because there's a lot of great things that come out of her media. And
Oh,
I'm
thank you.
no, I think it's great. I think it's great. And hi, Nerd for Your Life Form. We'll take suggestions. Go ahead, drop it to me in the Discord. But Janet, really, thank you for showing up tonight and being able to, one, not be hit by a tornado, and two, safe, and three, be able to watch this movie and discuss it with me.
No, yeah, thank you. I really enjoyed it. I'm glad you told me about it because I was missing out big time because it was really, really good. I really enjoyed it. I'm definitely going to watch it again. And that's a good idea. I'll see if I can get one of my sisters to come over and watch it with me. It'll be fun.
Okay. Everybody, I want to thank you for stopping by tonight. Next Monday, we'll be back at it about 7:30 in the evening, barring any technical mistakes or weather-related issues. But we do look forward to seeing that. Thank you so much for showing up tonight and being part of our chat and our panel. And this is Bruce and
Thank
Janet.
you, guys. Thank you very much. I had a great time. It was fun. And thank you for including